Hello and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of entertaining and incredible racing action in the touring car series you all know and love. It is none other than the NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 10, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on iRacing and proudly sponsored by none other than Doble Motorcycles. It's round number 3 of 10, and for our third round of the season we have made our way from a very familiar venue in the former Fuji International Speedway, of course playing host in round number 2, to a brand new venue for round number 3, because we have made our way all the way to the US of A, and we have arrived at none other than the Portland International Speedway, also known as what is Portland in simplicity. Well, this circuit, located in the US state of Oregon, is a circuit that only arrived on the iRacing simulator platform as of 2025, but it has already been making some absolutely landmark statements with regards to its absolutely brilliant racing action it provides. With a grand total of none other than 12 corners, some short straights and plenty of corner complexes, here's a circuit which is going to feel very different for our drivers when it comes to offering overtaking opportunities, because with the straights being so short, it does mean that battling around here is going to come down to being very elbows out and on the brakes, and that's before you do consider the fact that it does have quite the hairpin complexes and also none other than what is the Shelton Chicane. Therefore, for our drivers, it's going to be a learning experience from start to finish, and understandably you can imagine that it will be those who can learn the circuit quickest that are going to be able to come away on top today, whereas those who are slow learners, they may just be struggling towards the back. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune tonight on one of 3 media channels for your viewing pleasure. Indeed, you'll be catching all the racing action today, firstly on one of the 2 official NXTGEN Racing media channels, one of which is none other than on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing, and we say hello to you guys and girls tuning in via there. Alternatively, if you're more of a Facebook user, you can of course be tuning in via the official NXTGEN Racing Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. You'll be catching all the racing action there, and we also do have the unofficial broadcast available via none other than Twitch, at twitch.tv/Paul Walsh Productions, and we say hello to a few of you there, including none other than Major Nestor, who indeed has been a long-time competitor on the NXTGEN Racing grid, dating all the way back to our early foundational years in what was none other than Gran Turismo Sport. And goodness me, it's good to see you tuning in, good sir, and I hope you're doing well. But as we come into this round of racing, what exactly is our schedule for today? Well, as always, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, has been seen in approximately 18 minutes time. We'll be making our way into our qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration. All drivers out there looking to go for pole position, after which we'll then go straight to what is our first grid of the day for race number 1. That'll be one of 3 16-lap races. Race number 1 due to get underway at 8:20 this evening, after which we'll take a brief breather before returning just before 9:10 for race number 2, and then we rinse and repeat, but not without that all-important reverse grid draw for the purposes of race number 3, and race number 3 is due to get underway at just after 10 o'clock this evening. Indeed, 3 absolutely thrilling races lie ahead of us, and with plenty of cloud, a bit of sun, and no risk of any rain around here, where it's definitely going to be one of the situations whereby our drivers are going to have the perfect conditions with which to get to grips with the Portland International Raceway in their touring car racing machines, but who exactly is going to get to grips with it best, we're about to find out. All your racing commentary, of course, brought to you by myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be covering all your racing action over the entirety of the season. But without further ado then, ladies and gentlemen, let's give you a recap of the season so far and what we've still got lying in wait. Because as we can see, today is the 10th of February 2026. We continue to make our way around the globe. We've made our way from Europe to Japan, and now across the Pacific Ocean we have spanned all the way to Portland International Raceway. It's Grand Prix layout playing host to our drives around number 3, and next time out we're making our way back to the European continent for the Italian circuit of the Autodromo National Monza, also just known simply as the Monza circuit. On the 24th of February, it's going to feel as though we're going back to a classic circuit, as our drivers will be taking on its Grand Prix layout minus its first chicane, which has become a staple of the NXTCC calendar. Then, of course, we'll be wrapping up the first half of the season on the 10th of March with our endurance race round, and that'll be round number 5 at the Mount Panorama circuit's full course, or none other than what is known as Bathurst, and we'll bring the curtain down the first half of the season, but the pace of the racing will not slow down, I can promise you that. But that's far enough in the future, and as we come into this round, well, what is the summary from Fuji International Speedway? Well, firstly, overall, it really was another demonstration from Project 26 with Alpha Touring Challenge. Their 2 drivers of Wojciech Swirydowicz and Luciano Witvoet were able to really dominate proceedings, and as we'll see in the championship standings shortly, it really is those 2 are leading the way overall. Meanwhile, in the Pro-Am class, things were getting very tight at the very top, top, with Ben Altrier, Sam Exton, and Stuart Wyness all delivering well. How the one driver everyone's going to be aware of was none other than Michael Lees, who absolutely delivered an incredible pole lap last time out at Fuji, and also brought home the race 1 win there. And in the AM class, well, there was only one name that resonated throughout the entire time in Japan. It was none other than George Stone, who made it 3 wins out of 3 in the class, and therefore he has absolutely propelled his AM championship charge, and we look forward to seeing what exactly is going to play out in that class, indeed all 3 of our classes, as we get ready to go racing today. But talking about the quick recap of the racing, well, let's talk about those standings then as we make our way into round number 3, and we start off with the Drivers' Overall Championship. Here's your top 10, and as we can see, it's Luciano Witvoet who leads the way on 100 points, 4 ahead of none other than Wojciech Swirydowicz. For Witvoet, it was a round to be remembered in the fact he just fell short of what was the win in race number 1 at Fuji, but he was able to take the race win in race number 2 and add to it in race number 3, so he continues to push forward, and on top of that as well, he became the record holder last time out for the furthest position down the grid, which a driver has come through the field in order to win race number 3, because he did start all the way down in 20th place with that reverse grid draw and made his way on full attack. He was already up to what was 13th place on lap number 1, and by the end of the race, he was number 1 in that running order, and Wojciech Swirydowicz, meanwhile, had to sit a little bit further behind, could not quite come through as quickly as he would have liked to. However, those 2 drivers both scoring the lion's share of the points, and that's why they're putting it away. And pull away they have, because you can see there the gap to third place is Isaac Doble. Right now that is 35 points then. The leading member of the Doble Sim Racing family will be hoping he can perhaps tighten the gap today. Ben Altrier, the leading Pro-Am in the overall Drivers' Championship, sits in 4th on 47 points, only 1 ahead of Alex Meredith, who in turn is keeping him honest, but is being kept honest by Jamie Dory, the man who is his master, and indeed Meredith is Dory's protege in many ways. But we can see from the 6th place man of Jamie Dory, who's definitely revitalised his racing form at Fuji after a dismal day at Silverstone, where he's ahead of Andrew Pike there by the best tune of 2 points. Now Sam Exton, Dan Mould and Stuart Wyness completing what is that top 10, and outside the top 10, currently sat in 11th place, we see none other than Logan McKenzie, the 3rd man of what is the Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge team, and right now still needing to find some more points compared to his teammates, but he's definitely contributing to their team's championship campaign, as we'll see shortly. Mikey Doble, what a rough start it's been for him after what was a decent day at Silverstone, where in round number 2 he only picked up a single overall point, and therefore right now he languishes in 12th place. Now, there's plenty more work to do today, and indeed right now might effectively be locking in what is round number 2 as his drop score for the season. Michael East, meanwhile, he didn't score any points at Silverstone, but overall he scored very well last time out. He only sits a point behind him in 13th, ahead of Craig Twardock, with the Welshman there only what is the best part of 4 points adrift, and it's a further 3 to Joseph Doble. That's your top 15, and then we do have Adam Delman, Alan McCain, Lee Horn, Ben Bennyworth, and George Stone completing that top 20, with George Stone being your leading AM driver in the overall Drivers' Championship, given the fact he picked up those 10 overall points last time out. Indeed, an AM picking up overall points is always something to be excited about. That's your overall Drivers' Championship top 20. Now let's come on to the Pro-Am Championship, the second of our 2 championships, well, the second of our 3 championships, I should say. Indeed, I can't count today. But as we come to the Pro-Ams, well, it's Ben Altrier who leads on 88 points. However, the lion's share points he picked up at Silverstone, well, it was equalised to a degree by those around him last time out. The big name, of course, is Michael Lees, you see there in 5th, having picked up 49 points out of a maximum effective 54, and in the end, really picking up the big score onto 59 points he has gone. But between the 2 of them, we can see that it is very tight at the top, with Exton only 3, well, in fact 2 points behind our championship leader, and it is a further, what is 3 points to Stuart Wyness. And right now, all 3 drivers definitely taking shade and points off each other, but understand, I think all 3 drivers today will be hoping it's a bit more straightforward for one of them at least, with Wyness taking the win in race number 3 last time out. Meanwhile, it was Ben Bennyworth who took the victory in race number 2 at Fuji, and in race number 1, meanwhile, where it was none other than Michael Lees who took the win. So the win's been spread across the group, and therefore nobody right now is really the dominant driver. But keep your eyes out for 4th place man, Craig Twardock, because currently on 60 points there, he's yet to really hit his stride. Well, of course, he did pick up a good haul of points last time out what was none other than Silverstone, but of course, in Fuji, it didn't quite go his way, and therefore it does seem as though for the 4th place man right now, he's got to find a bit of consistency to make his way forward. Then we come to Michael Lees, who we talked about only months ago, as he's definitely got his championship campaign underway. Next, Matthew Sheridan currently sat in 6th place there on 48 points, 3 ahead of Alan McCain. Benjamin Gregory is only behind McCain based on result countback, and it's Ben Bennyworth and Nick Clearance who complete that top 10 there, down to 32 points, and outside the top 10 of the Pro-Am. So let's not forget about them. It's the 29 points of Sam Smith, who's only ahead of Kieran Smart based on result countback, and a third point to Carl Thompson there for GBLC, and right now definitely Thompson's getting his teeth stuck into things. We see Matthew Jordan and Andy Fox round off the top 15, and we look forward to seeing Andy out there once again, as we always do, albeit last time out, definitely picking up a good haul of points, but he's hoping for an even better day today. But even he was admitting to me in the build-up to today about the fact that learning a whole new circuit, it is not going to be easy by any extreme. Phil McDougall sits in 16th ahead of Lewis Delmont, and then it's Jack Brown ahead of Adam Wilson-Weir and Joshua Downing, who complete your prime top 20. As for the AMs, here is your top 10 of your AMs. And we see George Stone with the maximum possible point score of 60 last time out. Well, he definitely overshadowed Michael Clove's performance at Silverstone. And George Stone right now on 89 points. Well, you can understand if he'll be feeling as though he can do that again today. As he talked about in his post-round interview from Fuji, he's hoping to make it 3 out of 3 again today. He might be able to start pulling away. But Clove will be hoping that's not the case, because these two have already had elbows out racing, particularly at Silverstone. Went wrong for the pair of them at Priory in the third race of the day in those absolutely abysmal conditions. Meanwhile, sat in third, Marcel Fritsch there right now. One of the two Fritsch member families, the father and of course the son Adrian Fritsch, who we spoke to last time out. Well, the WS Racing Esports Shire is going to be keen to move forward on 75 points, only 5 ahead of Mark Hughes, who took what was an absolutely brilliant set of results last time out in all the racing, no doubt about it, and he'll be hoping for plenty more today after what has been a challenging last couple of seasons for Mark Hughes, but he's definitely hitting his stride. Nigel Stock sits in 5th there, and of course the Blue Lobby champion from season 9. Well, right now he's had a reasonable start on 65 points, 7 ahead of Lewis Mason, his rival from that season, and the two of them back together again. Indeed, we can always expect their fates to be entwined, and it's Adrian Fritsch there in 7th place with a huge score last time out. Couldn't quite take a win, but definitely felt as though he picked up wins with some podiums. Joseph Wright sits in 8th place there, not quite being able to match up to Silverstone, but to be fair, it's all about consistency as the season goes on, and Sean Dobie and Sammy Ariba complete the top 10, and outside the top 10, in 11th, we'll see Fraser Ostens on none other than 33 points, ahead of Stephen Fry, only on result countback, and it's Roy Plummer, Andy Althouse, Mark Sykes, and Gabriel Yilmaz, who complete your AM Championship standings. Then we come to the Teams Championship, and here's your top 10 of the teams, and as we can see, Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge, they lead the way on 196 points, and they are well clear of the rest of the teams at the moment, with Double Sim Racing now second, best of the rest arguably here on 99 points, with a gap there, the best part of what is 36 points to TSRC Esports. NXTGEN Green, they lead the NXTGEN teams in 4th place, ahead of their pink counterpart, 4 points behind in 5th, and it's further 2 points to Full Tilt Motorsport, with Team Big Lips, NXTGEN Orange, Track Scotland, and JW Motorsports rounding off that top 10. On 27 points, 7 JW Motorsports, we come to outside the top 10 there to complete your top 19 teams, and we do see iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport in 11th place, only 10 ahead of Great Mass Motorsport, with them being a further 3 points to Mission R, and then Aztec Racing and 6R Project Black complete the top 15, with GBRC the last team to have points to their name, and then yet score any points, WS Racing Esports, RA Motorsports, and NXTGEN Blue. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about our circuit, which we're going to race that today. As of course, it is the Portland International Raceway's Grand Prix circuit, located near the city of Portland in Multnomah County in Oregon in the US of A. Well, a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that come with it. 12 corners, and this circuit known to have held racing through multiple different disciplines, all the way from what will be touring cars, all the way up to IndyCar. But as the drivers sweep their way around this circuit, indeed they shall, they'll roll their way down an extended start-finish straight and in towards the Shelton Chicane at turns 1, 2, and 3. Through the very sharp right angle chicane, they'll then make the way out, and as they do, it's then going to be in a very what is complex sequence of corners at turns 4, 5, 6, and 7, where it's all about direction change and looping back on oneself. But coming out of the very tight turn number 7, they'll then make the way onto a long curve stretch of turn number 8 to roar the way down to the very fast sequence of a left of 9, the kink, followed by what will be the extended triple right apex of turns 10, 11, and 12 to complete a lap and do it all over again. It's going to be a very fast lap around here. Indeed, with that speed, it's all going to be about who can manage the understeer in order to keep it on track. But as we get ready to go racing, of course, a quick reminder of the rules, because we can't go racing without them. This is a fixed setup series where drivers are provided with a setup ahead of each and every round of racing. They may choose, if desired, to run an option setup in any of the races, subject to the following, but they can only run it once. And keep in mind that if we have rain, the option setup is not available. But given the fact we do have dry conditions today, or expected, we're expecting the option setup to be available in all 3 races. But you can see the table there, which specifies drivers who cannot run the setup. It's all based on their championship positions, and also whether they've previously run the option setup or not. Alternatively, where they finish in the race as well will dictate exactly whether they can run it or not. And the option setup is designed to provide the drivers with a slightly faster car which they can use to try and move themselves forward, particularly quite valuable in race number 3 potentially. But we're not going to dwell on the table. Instead now we look to our other rules. Sprint race wise, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on the results of qualifying. That's a given. Going to race number 2, we take the results of race number 1 and that's how we set the grid. Going to race number 3, meanwhile, we do the same. We take the results of race number 2, albeit with a caveat, so that we reverse the grid based on what is a reversal position drawn from our lottery bowl. Indeed, we'll cut to the commentary booth, we'll draw 2 balls out the bowl, and whatever they add up to, between 13th and 23rd, that's where we reverse the grid from. And so far this season, well, I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, we've had 17th and we've had 20th. Will we see our first repeat today, or will we see another fresh number? We'll have to wait and see. Each driver has 1 fast repair available in each race. We're not expecting any pit stops beyond repair work, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes, whichever expires first. But those 16 laps should see us run for 20 minutes. In terms of race stewarding, the independent race director is stewarding the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car, and meanwhile all racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. Now, on top of that, we do have our continued use of success ballast, which we won't go too far into, but just to remind you, it is applied going into qualifying and race number 1 today, based on what will be the championship standings, both overall in Pro-Am and in Am coming into this round. And then we also do see for race number 2, we update it based on the finishing positions of race number 1. And for race number 3, we rinse and repeat and update it once again based on the finishing positions of race number 2. Now, we do have 3 new drivers to the grid today, and we'll introduce them very shortly. So they will all be taking a newcomer success ballast into this round of racing. And therefore, that's going to be 16.6 kilograms put into their cars just to gauge exactly where their pace is in relation to their rivals. It just helps us ascertain here in the NXTCC exactly which class they should be put in. We have put them in provisional classes, of which we do expect the classes will be finalised come the end of today. And here's your success ballast table. Should you want to make a note of who's carrying what weight, take a screenshot of that now. We'll hold it for a couple of seconds, but after that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make our way back to circuit side. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's go back to circuit side then. Here we go. Back we go. And indeed, as we do, we're not far away from what will be our first ever qualifying laps here at the Portland International Raceway. But as all drivers make the way around, well, who exactly is going to be the one to put themselves on par? We will have to see, as we do see Joe Coffin glide his way on through what is going to be turns 4, 5, and in towards 6 and 7 very shortly. You can definitely see there how narrow it is as well. That's going to be on the fault of our drivers. This is not a wide open circuit compared to other circuits. Understandably, that may make things just that little bit more difficult. But we'll see what's to come from them as they come riding on the round, because of the simple fact here, this really is going to be a whole new day in the office for every single driver here, as Michael Lees tiptoes his way into the pit lane, but he's currently the fastest in the Pro-Am class here, although DQ Money has a little bit of success ballast in the car, but nowhere near as much as some of his rivals. But let's introduce our 3 newcomers to the grid today, shall we? Here's the first one, from Wales, and racing for RA Motorsports. He normally races in GT3s, but he's a multi-talented driver, and he will be in the Pro-Am class today. It is Owen Stitchbury, who we welcome, and we say hello to there in the Honda Civic Type R, and we look forward to seeing what he can do today in his number 922, and wish him all the best luck. And I've had the pleasure of sitting racing in GT3 racing across multiple series, and I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, he's a very fair but firm driver, and I get the feeling that when he heard about this series, he was definitely eager to go racing in touring cars, and I think he does have a secret love for these machines. But he joins in the Pro-Am class, and meanwhile we have 2 new names in the Am class as well, one of which here in these Audi RS3 LMS, it's none other than Philip Harris, the privateer, as he makes his way around, and wish him all the best luck on his debut in the number 21. And we haven't had much exposure to his racing in the past, but we're very happy to see him on the grid today and looking forward to seeing what he can do in the AMs. And we also do have new to the grid in the AM class, none other than Jack Giles. And here we see him for the Euro Titans endurance team. And in the AM class here, well, he'll be looking to go for gold in what will be the number 57. But as he makes his way onwards, we wish them both the best luck in the AM class, and we look forward to seeing how they mix it up with the very best out there. And I suspect we're going to see plenty of brilliant battling action between them as the racing goes underway. But in terms of who's the quickest in the AM class right now, at least in practice, it is Michael Clough, and well, understandably so, because he will be wanting to try and make amends for what was the difficulties that he did have last time out was the Fuji Speedway. Albeit he didn't have as big a set of difficulties as perhaps some of his rivals, but still, when you do take the leading set of points from Silverstone and then you make your way into the next round and you find you're not taking the leading points by comparison, well, it's always one of those situations whereby you start to think to yourself, is it me or am I just slipping behind a little bit? Well, of course, for Chloe, he's got to arrest that doubt if he does have any doubts in his mind and put things back together today. And that's easier said than done. We have such a competitive field, and the AM class has definitely looked very close this season, as has our overall category when it comes to Swirydowicz versus Witvoet, with Swirydowicz parked up there, and that's going to be, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, just before turn number 3. Witvoet's in the pit lane. We do see Isaac Doble there, making his man down with Jamie Dory just behind him. And Dory, as always, very eager to try and follow the Double Sim Racing drivers around and seeing what he's going to be able to do and whether he can perhaps impress us here, because it's been a while since we've seen Jamie Dory take a win. But we always love to see him right up there giving it his all. And indeed, right now, what is your 2-time NXTCC overall champion, the next-gen pink car? Well, it's crazy to think, until the end of last season, he's always been part of the winning team. And it's not a coincidence, he has led teams to victory. But that being broken last time with Doble Sim Racing in Season 9, taking their first ever Teams Championship crown. With Jamie Dory today, and Next Gen Pink definitely trying to right the wrong of Season 9 and trying to make the way forward. But with only a minute left to go, if you haven't said hi, feel free to say hello. Don't be shy, because we don't bite here at the NXTCC, and we hope you're all ready for what's going to be an entertaining evening action. Don't worry about it, ladies and gentlemen, in regards to the fact, if you're just here for the one of all 3 races, we'd love to have you here either way. I'll tell you one thing right now, this Portland International Raceway is definitely going to give us plenty of excitement. And well, I can't wait to see how they all get in qualifying, let alone in the races. As Matthew Sheraton does improve to 29th, moving his way up the order there. But we can see the Aztec Racing driver right now. Nine is still work to be done. He is currently the 14th fastest in this practice session of your programs. We would normally at this point get a word with 1 or 2 of our drivers in the build-up to the racing, but we're going to give them every second and lap we can for them to be able to get their final practice in, because once they go qualifying, ladies and gentlemen, they'll want to put their lids down and indeed visors down as well and get themselves set. And in fact, without further ado, the checker flag comes out in practice. It's time to see who can put it on pole. It's time for qualifying in round number 3 of the championship. And so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. What is 15 minutes? Time ticks away. Who exactly is going to put it on pole? That's what we're here to find out, as they all immediately make the way out the pit lane as quickly as they possibly can. But as all of our drivers do here, I suspect it is going to be just as much about finding a bit of clear track initially for a banker lap as it will be about the slipstream later on in the lap. Running around right now, Dory, the leading car, out of the pits. A few drivers deciding to take their time making them out the pit lane. But then suddenly we get the big old scramble coming out here. It really is going to be traffic jam as they head on out, but understand we all are very eager to get out there, and with plenty of time and a short lap, it's going to be one of those scenarios whereby I suspect we'll see some drivers really take their time, and meanwhile some other drivers might decide they need as many laps as humanly possible. Now, the theme of qualifying, of course, has been the fact that we do see our drivers with their fixed setups. They do take what is a predetermined amount of fuel in the car, and they have to try and gradually burn it over the course of the qualifying session. Towing to the pits will reset the fuel in the car. So the idea is you do not want to have an instant in qualifying which is going to see you have to tow back to the pits. Instead, you want to be out on circuit, you want to burn that fuel, give yourself the lightest possible car, and about what is 8 to 9 minutes into qualifying, you want to normally come into the pits, change the tyres, get yourself fresh tyres, and then go back out there for your ultimate qualifying laps. If you can find a teammate, or alternatively another driver who you're going to be able to siphon a slipstream off of, that's going to help you as well. But how much exactly is it going to help you here at the Oregon circuit? Well, that's an interesting question, because on the back stretch here, as a lot of drivers make the way on through, coming all the way through the curve of 8 in towards 9, you would imagine the slipstream is going to be quite valuable. It's going to be worth about 2 tenths. Same on the start finish straight, it might be worth a tenth or 2. Elsewhere on the lap, probably not worth anything. If anything, being on the tail of another car may actually hurt you by invoking dirty air and therefore adding to the understeer these front engine front wheel drive TCR machines have by default. So therefore, it might be the situation whereby actually qualifying in clear air is going to be beneficial. But then again, there's only one slight problem with that, and that is the length of the circuit and the number of cars here. When you do have the best part of what is going to be almost 50 cars in attendance here today, and a circuit spanning only 1.96 miles in length, yes, that's not a typo, 1.96 miles, you do the mathematics, treat it as 2 miles and put 50 cars into that, and what you suddenly find, as we see a big slip loose there from one of our Big Lips racing cars that continues to slide loose, and I believe that might be none other than Sam Exton. They're taking a bit of a journey, but finally gets it back together, or there. So, well, the point being is the fact in the end you don't even have more than 0.04 miles of space per car. That it's not going to be easy for you to be able to find some place to be able to operate in. And well, here's Sam Exton still chomping on the weeds. He's trying to get himself back on safely here. This hasn't worked out at all for him, and that's going to be a lot of dirt and gravel on the tyres, also on the under tray of the car, and right now he's going to have all stones dropping off the back of the car. And well, that's going to annoy the drivers behind him. Also, he's needing to get some clean tyres, and that's going to take him at least a lap now to clean those up. But as we do say hello in the Facebook chat there to Roger Pike, who says good evening and good evening to you both, Roger and Angie. And I do believe it's father and mother of none other than Andrew Pike, who's here today. Well, the Sim Racing Collective driver out there right now, and he goes full fastest initially. Remember, this is the first lap on the board for so many of them out there, and I suspect those lap times are going to come down. But Luciano Witvoet, that's not a surprise. Your championship leader sets the initial benchmark at an 18.541. But I do wonder who is going to be the ones potentially beat him today. Can anybody stop this man in his Audi RS3 from trying to run away from things? He has proven time and time again this Audi a very quick and confident car, but Luciano Witvoet does have Logan McKenzie, his teammate, only immediately within 3/4 of a tenth off him straight away, so that's close. And Michael Lees, well, you can always count on him to impress in qualifying, and despite the fact he's got a bit of weight in the car, well, right now the number 55 driver here is not letting the weight hold him back. But Wojciech Swirydowicz now makes his way in towards the final sector, and as he does so, will glance his way on through the Polish driver, two-time champion this series, trying to become a 3-time champion if he can. And of course, I can imagine right now it will be, as the season goes on, a question of whether it's going to be a 3-time championship or a 1-time championship for Witvoet. But we'll see as they make the way down the line. And here he comes in. He was currently 5th. He went purple in the first 2 sectors, and a personal best in the latter half of the lap. And it is going to be, it's provisional pole there, an 18.430. And well, that puts him a whole 10th faster than Luciano Witvoet, his teammate. Meanwhile, Lewis Mason right now, this is very impressive from the youngster. A new livery on the car today for Paul Tilbury Motorsport, which he was telling me about in the build-up to today. And well, the livery definitely looking lovely on the car. They have been revising this livery over the course of the first couple of rounds, and in fact I've been involved a little bit in the feedback process there. They have been asking me for my thoughts on it. I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it is a lovely livery there. Whilst it's a bit of a darker livery compared to some of the other cars out there, to be fair, it definitely looks as though it's full tilt in stealth mode right now, but sometimes being stealthy and sleek can definitely attract sponsors and also the eyes to the car. The red and black machine making its way onwards, and Lewis Mason right now definitely looking very quick out there in the AM class, currently 9th overall as well. And meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch just squeezing ahead of Michael Clough, but that's only a gap there of what is half a tenth if that. Now, the expectation in this qualifying session is the times will be very tight. Now, we have seen that in the first 2 rounds already this season. At Fuji, a very technical circuit, we did see the field separated by the slenderest of margins in qualifying, which really blew our mind away, particularly the fact you had the top 35 separated by only a single second, which you would understand if it was at a circuit, say, such as Brands Hatch Indy. But at Fuji, a circuit the best part of 3+ miles, with all its corners, we got to see the top 35 separated by a single second. Whereas here so far, we have seen what is the top 23 separated by a single second. So I can imagine everyone's still to try and find the best time. That always does happen at these circuits, whether it's a long one or a short one in the NXTCC. It shows you how close the field is, and right now how literally a tenth can be the difference between you starting, say, on the 10th row of the grid, all the way up to you starting on what might be the 6th row of the grid by comparison. And that's what we're seeing exactly here right now. There's more time to improve. Matthew Cheverton now launched his way up into 11th. So the S10 Racing driver here, still moving forward. Your Season 9 Blue Lobby Pro champion. I think he's going to be happy with that. And the prime driver right now in the 001, knowing there's more to be done. As he rolls his way in towards turns 3, 4, 5 and 6, we do continue to see what is a very tight run at the front, because Wayne Douglas has now moved into 2nd. He's only 3 thousandths off of Wojciech Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz right now making his way on through. Where's Wayne Douglas? There he is, a bit further back for Douglas Motorsport. And the privateer driver here right now getting ready to go on to an up lap very shortly. But speaking of laps, I think we owe you guys and girls an onboard lap with one of our drivers. And in fact, we're going to do so with none other than what will be Isaac Doble as he takes us around for a flying lap. He's making his way down the start-finish straight in his Honda Civic Type R FK8, and as he does so, looking to his left for his brake marker, and it will be there at what will be the 300-yard board. He brakes down to 3rd gear, drops to 2nd as he transitions to turn number 2, and now back on the throttle immediately as he mounts the curbs and rolls his way up towards turn number 4. Here it's a brief breather before he gets ready for his braking zone. No real brake markers to work with here. He can look to his left-hand side and towards the RV camp, but he rolls his way through the apex of 4, then into 5. Well, now it's going to be hard on the brakes here to bring the car all the way round, and now in towards turn number 6. The switchback run here, we'll see him nurse the car through in 2nd gear before he gets over to the left-hand side to open up the hairpin at turn number 7, and onto the brakes he'll go. From 3rd gear back down to 2nd. Nice open approach to the corner there. That's one of the lovely things about it. He's going to offer plenty of battling action now as he makes way through the king and in towards turn number 8. Shortens the corner run as much as possible. They can get away of cutting that curb, but they've got to be careful, of course, because it's a jagged curb, and if it grounds out the car, they'll very quickly find themselves going to the barrier or to the grass. But down towards turn 9 he comes, and onto the brakes once again there, braking about the 300-yard board, dropping a gear from 5th to 4th, and now rolling the car through 10 and onto the brakes hard in towards 11. As he brings it on through the double right-hand apex, that's going to be turn number 12, and Isaac Doble, in fact, makes his way into the pit lane, where he gives you a brilliant demonstration of the whole lap and what the pit lane entry looks like, and he would have run it all the way to the wall there if he was planning to complete the lap. As we do say hello there to the time consumer, good evening to you, good sir, and well, we just want to give a big shout out there to the time consumer for his feedback on what was the round 1 broadcast and recommending some alternative software to make sure the liveries and all of the decals on the cars are loaded to the best possible, and indeed that's all been fixed now. A good thank you to you, good sir. I do believe that's Mark Kent in the YouTube chat there, and Mark, an NXTCC veteran and a veteran of multiple NXTGEN Racing League grids, and always helping out in the background, and very much thank you to you, Mark, because I can tell you one thing, the software you recommended has come in handy. We also do say hello there to none other than, I do believe, Jitas, or that is Mr. Pittas, who has been on the grid previously as well, wishing the best luck to the Type 2 racing drivers, of which we do have a few out there, including none other than Adam Wilson-Weir as he makes his way on down the start-finish straight. What exactly is he doing right now? Well, the answer to that is things are going relatively okay for Adam Wilson-Weir as he jumps up to 3rd in the Prime class. They're going better than okay now on 18.394. But his season so far definitely has been a season of progression with the occasional little setback. But then again, you're always going to find that. And he's been eager to be on the grid for a couple of seasons, but he's finally found his way onto the grid for season 10. And we're very happy to have him here right now. And I do believe the man who does race in real life as well, although it does escape my mind as to what he's racing in this year. I did want to say Citroen C1s, but I'm confusing him with another driver who has been racing in Citroen C1s recently. But I do believe that Adam Wilson-Weir, a real life racing driver as well. And indeed, all the skills he learns in real life can be translated onto the simulator, and the same from the simulator to real life. But as he rolls his way around and up towards what will be turn number 9, well, right now it does look as though for Adam Wilson-Weir, everything is looking very much online. But meanwhile, Owen Stitchby, currently the fastest of your primes, in 4th. He's in the pit lane here, and well, right now I can tell you one thing: if you're making your debut, that's one way to make a name for yourself, by putting yourself on a provisional pole in the prime class and 4th overall. Michael Lees will need to try and find a response if he can. But as he waits there in the pit lane and they all settle on down, who perhaps is struggling a little bit? Well, Andy Fox, we caught up with him in the build-up to today. We didn't quite get a chance to speak to him live on air, but he was saying to me about the fact that he hasn't had a chance to perhaps put in as many practice laps as he would have liked to, and indeed he now is really having to learn as he goes. He has been very busy, to be fair, and well, to give you an idea what he's been busy with, he's continued to be busy with the joint collaboration project between iRacing and also the Cosworth Toolkit, which is being used for telemetry data, not just on the simulator but also for real life racing. I do believe he's been very heavily involved recently, helping out several GT4 teams in real life as they've been getting ready to go racing at Sebring International Raceway in the US state of Florida. And I do believe that's coming up very soon at the very bumpy Hendricks Army Airfield circuit. So therefore, Andy Fox, when he's not in the car, he's normally helping other drivers learn how to better set up their cars and continue to help them find plenty more time in the car. And no doubt about it, he's been enjoying himself out there, and he's looking forward to seeing how he lines up today, but he has not set up any expectations. But the one thing he has commented on is the fact that around here it looks very tight at Portland, and overtaking opportunities may prove to be very challenging. So track position could be very key here, and the ability to make your car wide could be a key asset, as he takes way too much curb there, coming through 9 into 10, and as a result the car slides loose, but he keeps it together, does Fox. Well done to collecting that. That could have gone very wrong, but right now showing he's got some pace building, but he's just got to find the difference between the fine line of going over it and going under it as he comes on down that start-finish straight. And well, currently sits in 28th now with an improvement there for Nigel Stock, and Nigel Stock meanwhile looking very good there in the Crest Autosport machine. Well, currently into 3rd place in the AMS. But it does seem as though our AM field is splitting a little bit. Lewis Mason and Marcel Fritsch very close together. Meanwhile, Nigel Stock by comparison a bit further back, and the other sides will gap to Adrian Fritsch and Michael Clough. Albeit, perhaps one of the biggest surprises of them all is Mark Hughes has yet to get a lap on the board. And we do see the Team GBRC driver here, who really has had a good season so far. Well, that lovely dedicated livery there to the Super Touring era of the 1990s BTCC. And I do believe that is in reference to the Nissan team out there, the official Works Nissan team, the Nissan Primera in particular. And goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, I am already getting flashbacks to that era. And indeed, I do love the fact that every season we do have a livery or two dedicated to the Super Touring era of the BTCC. And I wonder if we're going to be doing where's our historic livery round once again, where we always do encourage our drivers to put on historic liveries. And normally you see some very brilliant dedications to the likes of the Peugeot 406 of that era, the Audis, and indeed also the Honda Accord Type R's as they were. Great crazy to think the Honda Accord Type R is now the best part of that generation. It is the best part of almost 27 years old. Indeed, those cars all becoming classics. But still, I can't gloat and reminisce on that for too much longer because with 2 minutes left on the clock, we've got a few more laps to come from our drivers and a few more surprises perhaps in store. So Isaac Doble, well, he was purple in the first sector, but he did not improve on the rest of the lap. He's got 2 minutes left to try and find more time, or another 2 laps if you will. Now, keep in mind, of course, there is overtime in this qualifying session, so when our drivers do see the 15 minutes conclude and that checker flag comes out, they will then be allowed to finish the lap they're currently on. Now, with Isaac Doble out here, where is Mikey Doble? Where's Joe Doble, I hear you ask? Well, the answer is we can't see them at the moment. We are just double checking. Here is Joe Doble, and there he is in 13th currently, looking quick as he rolls his way between the apexes. But meanwhile, for Mikey Doble, I don't see him on the entry list here today, so I wonder if Mikey's having to miss this round due to personal commitments, and he'll be back in 2 weeks' time for round number 4. Where if so, that's definitely going to change things up a little bit, but also after the difficulties at Fuji, well, understandably, he does need to regroup as soon as he possibly can because things did not go well there whatsoever. But all these drivers right now not too far away from seeing the first race be set. Who exactly now is going to improve right at the end? Well, we look to Adam Wilson-Webb as he goes across that timeline, and we get a final onboard lap here from the prime driver. Making his way down towards turn 1 then, and as he does, we'll looking to be in control as he dives down the brakes on towards what is second gear and rolling his way through turn 2, and now building up the speed here as he makes his way through the kink of 3 and getting ready for towards turn 4. Now onto the brakes, he gets ready to go. Looks to his left-hand side for his brake marker. Braking at the 100-yard board. It's a small dab of the brake just to get the weight pit forward on the nose. Holding third gear all the way around through 4 and 5. And very shortly coming in towards turn 6. Onto the brakes, I'm in the middle of the road, down to second gear, right in the apex curve there to pull the car around, and now over to the left-hand side to open up turn 7. As he does so, well, is there going to be anything different with this lap? Not really compared to our previous on board. One that he carries way too much speed there, and that's going to send him wide, and for Wilson-Webb, that is going to almost invalidate the lap. That's definitely going to slow the lap down, and for Wilson-Webb right now, I can imagine he's just going to carry on here to complete his lap, but it's definitely not the way he's wanted it to go, and right now, for your number 4 driver, well, I think this is going to be a 8th place that he's provisionally going to start in that he won't improve upon, and now have his fingers together and be hoping as he glides his way through turns 9 and 10 that there's just going to be no more improvement from anybody else. But through the final 2 corners he comes, and as he does so, well, will we see any improvement at all? And the answer is going to be no. He decides to pull off race line and park the car immediately. Wayne Douglas, meanwhile, he's trying to dethrone Swirydowicz if he can. Swirydowicz did improve to an 18.108 off camera, and now the gap between the term is 4.5 hundredths. But Douglas is on his final lap here, as he does have the company of Luciano Witvoet right behind. Witvoet might be one of the very last drivers to get a valid lap on the board, so therefore this could be very interesting. Cole Thompson does not improve. Meanwhile, we did have an improvement there from none other than what I believe was Jamie Dory to 23rd place. He's a long way back in the start in order to be fair. Dory. Mark Hughes crossed the line. As he does so, he moves to 40th on a 19.750, but definitely right now not where he's wanting to qualify at all. What about Ben Altria? As we do see the full tilt Motorsport try and make his way through the final corner. Goes a little bit deep, however, but does salvage it and make his way past the static camera. That lovely camera angle showing you how quick they come by. But as these 3 come to line, what the lap time's going to be. And in the end, well, it's not an improvement from Witvoet. Meanwhile, does Wayne Douglas still pole position away? The answer is no, he does not. And Altria in the end will stay 11th. So that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And it does mean on pole position here today, despite the fact he's carrying the best part of 50 kilograms of success ballast, it is Wojciech Swirydowicz who takes pole ahead of Wayne Douglas, Will Logan McKenzie and Luciano Witvoet, therefore rounding off your front 2 rows, and indeed is looking a very impressive qualifying performance there of 1st, 3rd and 4th from Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge, and Wayne Douglas spoils the party on the front row, starting 2nd for Douglas Motorsport. Meanwhile in Pro-Am, on a debut, it's going to be Owen Stitchbury, the Welshman, who takes that pole position for RA Motorsports just ahead of Michael Lease, who lines up on row number 3 alongside him. So it'll be close between those 2 Pro-Ams, with Adam Wilson-Webb only 2 places behind in 8th on the 4th row, separated by Isaac Doble. And on row number 10, it will be your Ampole sitter and Marcel Fritsch in the company there of Lewis Mason. But as they make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up, ladies and gentlemen, because it is Wojciech Swirydowicz who takes pole position here for the first race of the day in round number 3 of the championship. He'll be joined on that front row, the Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge drive by NXTGEN Pink's Wayne Douglas in collaboration with Douglas Motorsport. Logan McKenzie starts in 3rd there for Project 26 for ATC ahead of his teammate of Luciano Witvoet. And then we do have on row number 3 your prime pole sitter from Wales of RA Motorsports is Owen Stitchbury. Michael Lee starts in 6th there for JW Motorsports. A great effort there from Lee's. He's just ahead of Isaac Doble, the best part there of what was none other than 17 thousandths. And then behind them on this grid, it will be on the 4th row of the grid, Adam Wilson with for Type 2 Racing. And Joe Coffin begins this one in 9th, his best qualifying points of the season so far for Team Big Lips. Head of TSRC Esports is Andrew Pike, who finds his way back into the top 10 once again. And outside that top 10, starting 11th, it's going to be Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport. Head of NXTGEN Orange's Lee Horn. Then we have Joe Doble starting 13th for Double Sim Racing, ahead of Nick Clemens of iRacing Esports, powered by Crest Autosport. And then it's Gavin Garner in 15th place for NXTGEN Pink, just ahead of Matthew Cheverton. The S10 Racing Trial will be followed up by Craig Twildop for TSRC Esports, who enjoys a relatively good performance in qualifying, just ahead of Crate MS Motorsports' Ben Bennyworth, who couldn't quite surpass him. But then for the gap of 5 thousandths, it's then a further, what is 400ths to Marcel Fritschel and Pole Sitter, who starts 19th. The WS Racing Esports Trial will be joined by his Ampere of Lewis Mason for Full Tilt Motorsport, who's definitely going for gold in that new livery machine. And outside the top 20, we have Andy Fox started 21st, with a reasonable qualifying performance, although he'll be happy to be in the mid-pack. I think he'll also be wondering how the fights are going to play out. The NXTGEN Orange Trial will be joined by RS Esports powered by Crest Autosport Sam Smith, and then Jamie Dory starting 23rd for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of Carl Thompson. They've both qualified a bit differently compared to where they'd like to have, and the same would be said for Nigel Stock. The RS Esports powered by Crest Autosport drive 3rd in AM, but a long way off of the pole sitter and the 2nd place man. He's ahead of Reece Wathowe for JW Motorsports, and then Alan McCain starts 27th there for RS Esports powered by Crest Autosport, and it's Ben Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport, who's alongside him on the 14th row. Row 15 is going to see the completion of the top 30 by 2 AMs. It'll be Adrian Fritsch for WS Racing Esports, and the Austrian joined by the Briton and Michael Clough for NXTGEN Orange. And outside that top 30, 31st is going to be none other than George Stone for Type 2 Racing. Just ahead there of Team Big Lips is Sam Exton, who really struggled in qualifying, and that's a big surprise. Andy Aldhouse starts 33rd for GBRC, ahead of NXTGEN Blue's Roy Plummer, with Joshua Downing starting 35th ahead of what will be Matthew Jordan. The Type 2 Racing driver have directly behind him, 37th Fraser Ostens for NXTGEN Blue. Meanwhile, the NXTGEN Pink driver Matthew Jordan has Joseph Wright right behind him, starting 38th for the team. And then we do have Sean Derby starting 39th for 88 Tech Racing, ahead of Mark Hughes for GBRC, who had a very difficult qualifying session with no real lap put together until the very end. Then we start in at 41st for what will be Euro Titans Endurances, none other there than what will be Jack Giles, and he'll be joined by none other than CXR Project Black's Phil McDougall, who didn't set a valid lap, and there was no valid lap set there for Scott Malcolm, nor for what will be Philip Harris on his debut. The Lumen Motorsports and Privateer drives completing the final 4 row of the grid, and last but not least, 45th, it is going to be Mark Sykes. So 45 car starting order, ladies and gentlemen. This grid is set, and we are waiting now for the lights to go on. But goodness me, we have got 16 laps of entertainment to come. It is a long field here. It is a very tight Portland International Raceway circuit, and that can only mean one thing. It is going to be touring car racing at its finest, and you can imagine in some respects this might be the American equivalent of Alton Park. But as they all get ready to go here, well, who exactly is going to take the first ever win at Portland? We're about to find out. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's firing lights. And it's lights out, away we go. Here's Wojciech Swirydowicz, looks to get a good launch, but Wayne Douglas meanwhile matches him as they roar the way away. Down towards turn 1 they go, and look to the left, look to the right, and Douglas can't find his way through on the inside, but he'll go around the outside as all the field makes his way into that braking zone. They segue then into the chicane. A couple of drivers being elbowed out there. That was a bit of an elbow for one of the drivers running wide. I think that was none other than Isaac Doble. But all the field safely on through for now. Nobody being turned. A couple of free wides on corner exit, but they're all through those opening corners, and now in towards what he turns 4 and 5 they go, and this is where things are going to start to get tricky, and everyone will start to get a bit nitpicky. It's very sideways there. That was Andrew Pike. I think a small tap, and in the end it's going to be 3 wide. He's not too happy as Pike about someone ahead of him, but right as they make the way into the brakes, there's been an instant for Michael Clough and Joe Wright further back. We'll get a replay of that when we can. Things have gone wrong for them, but things are going right towards the front here, albeit we do see a big lunge there from Matthew Cheverton trying to cover off Lee Horn. He'll be able to do so. Matthew Cheverton already up into 13th. Oh, somebody's been propelled off. That's Lee Horn. Lee Horn's gone round onto the grass. He drops a long way back, but meanwhile what we've lost of him, meanwhile we gain all these other cars coming on through. So it's got a roll for Lee Horn, it's got a roll for a couple of other drivers as well. Replays will be given, but meanwhile, as all our drivers make the way onwards, well, coming towards the end of this open lap right now, and Craig Twildop here battling side by side with Gavin Gardner, trying to hold on outside to inside. He's going to hold it in the end, as hold up a second, that is Michael Lease off the road. He's off into the barrier there, turn number 10 in towards 11. He's going to rejoin via the escape road, but Michael Lease in a smoking car right now. That is coming to the pits very shortly. For me, after one lap of racing, it is Wojciech Swirydowicz who still leads ahead of Wayne Douglas, followed by Logan McKenzie. That's your top 3. quickly. But, well, is it now? Oh, goodness me, Wayne Douglas gets it very wrong there. And as he does so, was he aided on that journey? I'm not sure. But either way, well, he dropped to 4th place. And suddenly it's 1-2-3 for Project 26 with ATC. As meanwhile, Owen Stitchway still leading in the Pro class. The 922 driver here trying to hold his position with Adam Wilson-Weir for close company. And Wilson-Weir's had a brilliant start to this race. Well, what's gone wrong for Michael Lees? He's been able to pick up the slack immediately. Then in 7th, it's going to be Joe Coffin ahead of Isaac Doble, followed by Joe Doble. The two double sim racing drivers together, albeit Joe's had a much better start compared to his younger brother. And Andrew Pike completes the top 10. They're just ahead of Ben Altrier, who sits in a length best of the rest. As for your leaders of the AM class, well, Marcel Fritsch still holding on. Lewis Mason is right there with him. And then we do have only a couple more places back from there, 20th and 21st. In 24th is Adrian Fritsch right now, son of Marcel Fritsch, who's on the attack here with Nigel Stock and George Stone for close company. So it's getting a bit intriguing between them. Sam Exton, meanwhile, is just behind. He's too wide here with Matthew Jordan. He's trying to get back here. He's got a lot of weight in that car as the Big Lex Racing driver. He's got the best part of 25 kilograms in there, and that's going to be holding him back as they make the way in towards turns 8 and 9. And sweeping away through, Jordan takes the escape grass there. He has to give up the place because otherwise that would be overtaken off circuit. And well, he picks up a yellow flag. He will have to burn that automated slowdown that's been given to him by the iRacing system. But as all these drivers make the way past that static camera, lovely to see so much speed from everybody. And running the way onwards right now, well, Mark Hughes on the attack versus Sean Dobie. He's trying to find a way forward as Lee Horn is trying to recover in this race after what's been ejected out at turn number 7 on the opening lap. He's at the inside there, Phil McDougall. Those two know each other like the back of their respective hands. As meanwhile, Roy Plummer comes into the side there of Reese Watt. These touring cars can take a bit of a knock and bump, but to be fair right now, it's not the bump you want to keep making. And here comes Horn looking up the inside. Can't quite beat Wes the Velocity driver under braking as Sean Dobie, meanwhile, looking up the inside of McDougall. He's got Mark Hughes for close company here as they all fight towards the very back of the field. But as they roll the one around, and right now, we'll understandably here, Dobie looking one way, then the other. Well, meanwhile, we've got to look all the way back up to the front of the field because Isaac Dobie right now, currently running in 7th place. He's losing the leaders gradually, and now he's got the growing pressure of Joe Coffin behind as they get themselves set for the next braking zone. Coffin, I think, eager to try and make a way into this, but will he be able to do so? And right now, no. With Andrew Pike also there, however, I think the pressure is going to be on for him to do something sooner rather than later. He can't afford to keep waiting like this because that pressure will just keep growing until it bursts. And at that point, Andrew Pike will be very keen to find his way through. Now they all the way down towards turn number 1. Well, meanwhile, we take a look back in time at some of the big moments from the start of the race, including this for Fraser Rostons. So this was Rostons making his way down towards turn number 4. What exactly went wrong for him? Missed his braking point, went straight into the back there of the car right in front of him, and it sent him wide. It sent them all round. Andy Aldhouse as well being collected there, and that's when it all went to tears for so many drivers, including Joseph Wright. Was he the car who was impacted the most? I think it was Wright who was collected here. Yes, it was under braking, and in the end, straight into the back of Wright. That in turn triggered off what was contact with the car right in front. That was Andy Aldhouse and his Elantra being turned around, and then further cars being collected there, including Jack Giles. It all went very wrong. Philip Harris as well. They all came together as quick as that, and it was all in tears, and several cars having to tow to the pits for the damage. We then had this happen to Lee Horn only moments later. This was the exit at turn number 7, and as he made his way into the braking zone here, Horn battling with Matthew Sheraton. Sheraton saved up his inside. A lovely move from Sheraton, and then contact there, and that was with Craig Twardock, and Twardock turning Horn around, and Horn made his way to the grass, but thankfully had plenty of space in which to recover. And then we did have this from Michael Lees only moments later. This was a race incident for Michael Lees, but what exactly happened to him? Under braking with Adam Wilson-Weir behind, looked fine, took a lot of curb, that unsettled the car. He drifted it once, drifted it twice, got it onto the grass, and then couldn't slow the car down into the tyre barrier. And for Michael Lees, once you're gone, you are gone, you are out of it, and we saw exactly that there. And this was Benjamin Gregory only months later on lap number 2. This was coming down in towards turn number 1 as he made his way into the Shelton Chicane. What exactly went wrong? Well, went in very tight, side by side, and I think there was a bit of contact there potentially, although the apex curve that he attacked, he bounced off it, so that unsettled the car. If there was, I don't think the Race Racing Esports car can be blamed for that contact. That would have been lateral contact. I think that Gregory unsettled the car in the end by attacking so aggressively on the curb. Not to say it's at fault, to be fair, but that would be the faults of what we saw. Bit of an interesting one, that one, as we make our way back to your live racing. Now, more racing to come, no doubt about it, as the racing builds up gradually. However, what we've definitely seen so far here is that despite the fact there was a bit of a question as to how much overtaking could be done here at the Portland International Raceway's Grand Prix circuit, well, despite it being a very narrow circuit, it is proven to be a very close circuit as well. And we'll see the fact with these short straights, they just enable the cars to come back together in time for the corner sequences. So it really is going to come down to who's the bravest of the bunch. But here we go, right on board with Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, Mr. Fish, as he's nicknamed. And right now, there's nothing fishy fishy about this. He looks up the inside there. Versakov and it goes a bit deep. Can he make the move happen? He's going to need the drag now all the way down towards turn 1. The slipstream, if you will. They don't really get a side draft off of each other, unlike open wheel racers. Understanding Pike at this point, I think fancying his chances here, but do keep in mind the 45 driver right now has to worry about Ben Altria, who's only 2 tenths behind and would love a chance at trying to take 8th place off of him for some more overall points in the championship. So therefore, Pike having to play the game with the offensive defense, which is he needs to attack the guy in front to keep the guy behind away from him. It's a classic thing in the NXTCC right now where you have to fight forward rather than fight backwards, but it's far from easy. But coming from on board with him, Altria just behind, as you can see there, your second place prime driver. No safety car so far. The safety car team on standby if it's needed, but hopefully we don't see it deployed tonight. Although we have to appreciate and say a huge shout out to Gaz Williams, our safety car driver, who sacrifices his evening every second Tuesday to sit in the safety car. And well, as they say, when it's a good day, all he needs to do is watch some absolutely brilliant racing. But when it's a bad day in the office, he has to be out there and make sure everyone adheres to the safety car rulings. But meanwhile, as Lewis Mason leads in the AM class right now, well, there's been a change there because Lewis Mason has found his way ahead of Marcel Fritsch. This happened on lap number 4 from what I'm hearing, and we have a replay to show you exactly what did happen. So this was making their way down towards turn number 4. Mason looked up the inside, Fritsch on the outside. Fritsch outbroke himself there, carried too much speed, and the rear of the car slid loose. So Lewis Mason, in the end, was able to put the WRC Racing Esports driver under mental pressure, and the pressure did get there to your AM leader. But will it now to Mason? Well, not necessarily so when he's got a 2-second gap over Marcel Fritsch, as meanwhile, Adrian Fritsch, his son, has fallen a bit further back. They've swapped the place on around, but WRC Racing Esports here targeting the double podium in the AM class. That's not a bad achievement, to be fair, and both drivers will get another good haul of points, if so, before they go into race number 2 of the night. From them, we make our way a little bit further down the order to Phil McDougall and Reese Watt. As we can see there, McDougall looking up the inside of Roy Plummer, going all in. And this chicane definitely offering multiple lines, and that's a lovely move there from Phil McDougall, with Roy Plummer going so deep off of turn 1 into 2, carrying way too much speed, and it is such a deceptive chicane, that one. You don't want to carry anywhere near as much speed as you think you can through turn number 1 before you get to 2, because by the time you go onto the brakes of turn 2, the car already needs to have stopped, essentially. It is a deceptive chicane. It is one of those ones where you use turn 1 to brake for turn 2, not one of those ones where you brake for turn 1 and then you brake for the next corner, unlike at other circuits such as Imola, for example, where essentially with Villeneuve chicane you do that. But meanwhile, forget Villeneuve chicanes, it's Reese Watt right now who's playing the game up the inside there of Roy Plummer, and in the end he is able to get on through as they now make the way on towards turn number 8, and so does Benjamin Gregory. Gregory will be simply saying that, well, thank you very much, Reese, because that helps me out. But meanwhile, there's been even more drama at the front of the prime field, because Adam Wilson Weir, where exactly is he? Well, he's making his way along at the moment. He's got a very damaged car, however. What exactly has happened to Adam Wilson Weir? So he makes way along. He was leading in the prime class for a brief moment. In fact, we've had a complete chop and change of the prime leaders off camera, including Owen Stitchbury is falling on back. And well, here's a replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen, starting with how the prime lead changed originally. Now this was coming down in towards the braking zone there for turn number 8 and 9, and Stitchbury then took way too much speed, bounced on the curbs, went out wide, fell onto the grass, and he kept it together. Well, in the end, that's rally crossed. It's finest. Oh my good lord! Oh, and you can't do that. Get that close to the wall. My good lord, you made my heart jump out of its chest. I thought he was going straight to the tyre barrier, but not so. He knew exactly where the limit was, and then only a lap later we had this happen to Adam Wilson Weir. So this was a huge off track at the same corner. Turn number 9 is catching so many drivers out, and 10 carried all the speed in, did what Stitchbury had done the previous lap, but he tried to power for it, and as he did so, slid to the grass and hit the tyre barrier square on the front left, and that will be a tow to the pit if he doesn't have the ability to drive it back. So that is a crippled front left suspension there. He cannot get away with that. The impact point was too sharp, and therefore now he's got to pay the penalty, unfortunately, which will be a fast repair, but it's going to demote him all the way down, and he will be required to come into the pits within 3 laps. Oh, there's contact to the rear of him, but in the end it looks like there's Sam Smith actually saying to Adam, you know what, let me help you on your way. You don't normally see that. Sam Smith at the end being very helpful, albeit I don't think Adam Wilson will appreciate that, but in the end I think they'll catch up afterwards and go, well, it worked out, did it not? But me on Lewis Mason, they're looking up the inside. Careful, Lewis, you don't want to gamble this. He's going to gamble for it. And then he said Sam Smith sideways, and for Lewis Mason, did he need to go for it? Your AM leader, well, argument would be yes, because then he puts a prime drive between himself and the rest of the AM field. The argument no, meanwhile, is the fact that now he may incur the wrath of the stewards after the race. He might have the book thrown at him. Sam Smith might have a word or two with him as well in the pit lane. But meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch and Adrian Fritsch still together second and third. The AMs, they are now queued up behind Cole Thompson and Sam Smith, and then they've still got a bit of work to do. But goodness me, have they had a good race so far, and there's still plenty more going on further back. And here's a mention of Mark Hughes as well, who's now targeting 5th in the AM class. He's well at the back of Roy Plummer as he makes his way forward. We look down over the front there of the 495 driver, real-life racer and sim driver, and looking to the inside, and in the end decides not to go for it. I think worried about being so tight on that line, and given the gearing of the Audi, it's not going to be easy. That's going to be one of the weaknesses of the Audi at this circuit, is its very tight gearing for these low-speed corners. On this stretch, however, we will see Hughes' Audi absolutely flying. You can see in the toe right now how close he is, but he decides not to go for it versus Plummer. And Plummer, to be fair, in his Veloster, doing a very good job on corner exit to mitigate what is the Audi's top end speed advantage. As they use the runoff area there, big lockup from somebody coming on through that corner. I believe that might have been the car locking up there of none other than Reese Watt. Oh, goodness me. Hughes looks one way, then the other. He's trying to find a way through right now. Well, hitting the rear of what was Plummer's car. That's not going to make it more aerodynamic. That's going to hurt it massively. And as he looks down into the braking zone there, you can see the front bumper completely lifted up and also a bit of the bonnet there with that contact and roaring the way on around. Well, we do say hello to some other people there. As Roger Pike says, can you kindly say hello to Jebadia and Stanton in Doncaster, please? Yep, we can indeed. Hello to you both, and I hope you're both doing well. Sorry you can't sign in to say hello, but very glad to have you both tune in there. And I've completely butchered your names. I do apologise as well. That's something I'm always good at doing from what I gather. As we also say hello to Joseph Wright TV there in the YouTube chat. On the grid, of course, as Joe Wright. But as all these drivers make the way around, well, meanwhile, we look back to Michael Clough and Andy Aldhouse here. Both drivers have had difficult starts to their races, but particularly for Andy Aldhouse, who didn't even make it to turn number 4, and it's going to go wrong even more. As in the end, Clough taps Aldhouse on the rear. He wanted to move up the inside. And for Andy Aldhouse right now, I can imagine there might be some few choice words under his virtual helmet. And, well, we're not going to repeat them, ladies and gentlemen. We will keep this friendly to children instead. As Aldhouse brings himself back onto the road, but he's got to regroup and think to himself there's still 2 more races to go. But as he does so, meanwhile, hold up a second, that's not normally where you see the CXR Project Black Honda. That's parked up in the grass. That's Phil McDougall. He's gone off the road. How exactly did he get here? Well, here's a replay. So making his way down to the braking zone, battling with Benjamin Gregory is right behind. Oh, goodness me, a knock to the barrier there as he went onto the brakes, and that just sent him all the way into the barrier. Nasty incident there for Phil McDougall, and that would have been a tow to the pits. Their car absolutely in ruins. But we've been seeing so much going on further down the order. Meanwhile, let's go back to the very front of the order. And not too much has changed up here since the start of the race. It's still Swirydowicz leading ahead of Logan McKenzie and Luciano Witvoet. It is a 1-2-3 for the Project 26 for ATC team. Wayne Douglas, meanwhile, is falling to fourth, and with it 2 seconds behind. And understandably right now, I think Douglas here just trying to consolidate a 4th place, and he can't quite touch the top 2. Meanwhile, the real big battle going on is in the fight for 5th at the moment. This is Isaac Doble versus Joe Coffin. And as these drivers make the way out to turn 11 in towards 12, well, as they get ready for lap number 12, they've only got 5 more to go here, and they're bringing Andrew Pike along with them. Understandably, what Isaac Doble's got to do at this point is just try and outrun Coffin for a little bit longer. Now, Coffin, we do know, has less ballast in the car by comparison, and Doble is feeling that. And where will the ballast hurt him? Well, it will hurt him on the straights with regards to acceleration, but it will also hurt him in the corners. But under braking, the car is heavier, and therefore it's more weight to stop, which means those braking distances, they will get slightly longer. And as I've been informed by some other drivers in the past, for every 10 kilograms you have in the car, it normally means your braking distance extends by about 2 to 3 meters. That's normally it. So therefore, that's what makes it difficult. But of course, it's the length of the braking zone that also is a big factor, and what speed you are coming from and down to is also going to be a factor. But on average, for every 10 kilograms of success ballast, you can imagine it's about 2 to 3 meters that are added into that braking zone. And it is why, in the end, being able to trail brake so effectively is so valuable, particularly when you have ballast in the car, because it enables you to offset that weight transfer just a little bit more. But looking back to Gavin Gardner, he's still trying to make his way forward. He's on the back of Owen Stitchbury, and well, Stitchbury, the man who did put himself on prime pole, right now 9. That prime lead is not definitely in his hands anymore, and well, Gardner looking around the outside, but in the end, Stitchbury makes himself as wide as humanly possible, and we see Ben Bennyworth here looking to go on the attack. He wants to get on through. The Crate MS Motorsport driver goes all in. He wants to close down the RA Motorsports machine if he can, but Bennyworth right now can see the Pro Drive's not giving in, as Jamie Dory has been called in as reinforcements here as they make their way down towards the chicane. Dory on the outside as they get ready to go onto the brakes, and well, I can promise you Bennyworth is there with them as they go into that braking zone, but here goes Dory looking around the outside, so now he's going to attack his own teammate as Bennyworth backs off, but he's got to be worried about Andy Fox's right wheel. In fact, Fox there gets a really good run out the corner. Well, the challenge, of course, is the fact it goes from what is a right to a left, back to a right. So Fox in the end deceptively looks good, and then suddenly he has to fall back there in the Veloster as that Audi can just out-accelerate him. But Fox definitely doing a good job, having started in 21st up to 17th already, making steady progress. And something tells me in race number 2, we can expect him to make even more progress there, because right now he is just gradually taking his time, and I suspect in his mind all the data is gradually coming in, and he'll be very happy with this performance. He's now got his bearings after what is the best part of 16 laps of racing. But as he gets ready to head down towards the back end of the circuit, meanwhile, Alan McCain and George Stone side by side. Stone, your 3-time winner in the AM class last time out right now. Definitely not taking a win in this race, 4th in the AMs at the moment, but he moves into 26th out on the inside of McCain. McCain still coming the back of him here. This is a good old battle between the two, as right now it does seem as though McCain's Honda might just be struggling a little bit, needs the toe to get back against that Veloster. Looks the inside here, then looks another way. He right now is keeping Stone guessing, but George Stone is simply saying yes, and what exactly are you going to do? And further back, we do see Nigel Stock on the back of Joshua Downing as they get ready to go onto the brakes. And with the Type 2 Elantra there, holding off the Crest Autosport Elantra as well. And with Nigel Stock right now doing everything right. However, can he make his way past Downing and chase after Mark Hughes for that 6th place in the AM class? Well, he's not got long to be able to do it. If so, as they make their way on to the next lap. Stock coming on down here right now in the team, of course, which definitely proudly run by none other than Alex Everett, your commentator for the GT3 series at NXTGEN Racing. But meanwhile, commentating on this, that's going to be a big moment there for Joshua Downing out the inside. Hughes in the end has to switch back and go defensive, and well, up into 2 wheels there was Mark Hughes, made himself go into the stratosphere, and Downing gets what he wants there. He wants Hughes offline, he's done that. Can he now beat the Audi into the braking zone? Not quite. Mark Hughes right now is absolutely driving on the limit here as he makes his way around through turns 5 into towards 6, and the GBRC drive demonstrating just how well he can use the brakes of this Audi. It's not normally known for how good it is on the brakes, but Mark Hughes is showing to the world, yes, it can be. But here comes your Elantra again as Hughes comes across at the last moment there. He'll get away with that, but right now Joshua Downing literally squirming away with the back of him, and well, as he wiggles his way around, here comes Nigel Stock. Stock now is going to make the move here, and Hughes will be grateful for this in some respects, but he won't be grateful for the fact he's now got an AM rival right behind him. So the fight for 6th in the AM class is well and truly on, and they've got what is another 3 laps ahead of them, including this one, whereas the leaders have only got 2 to go. But speaking of those leaders, we'll come to them shortly, as Downing in the end loses some momentum there. So does Stock, and Stock right now has the unenviable task of trying to make sure Joshua Downing doesn't get in his way, as we do look to Philip Harris there in the very colourful livery machine, makes his way out to the corner, and well, I do believe that is an asymmetric livery on the car there for the privateer in the 21, but powering his way down the start-finish straight. Well, they're all right now looking left, right and centre in this little group, and whilst they're not fighting for overall points, they are very much fighting for AM positions. Stock tries to go around the outside, Hughes defends it, and in the end, Stock sent up into the curb. Hughes goes out wide as well. They're going to be 4 wide as they all come back together. Oh, it's in tears, and it all goes wrong for Philip Harris and Nigel Stock. They're into the barriers. Oh my goodness, it all ends up in tears, and that is not the way they wanted it to go whatsoever. But meanwhile, as Harris's car is beached into the wall right now, well, for Wojciech Swirydowicz and Logan McKenzie has caught up to him over the last couple of laps, so we could have a battle for the win right towards the very end, as right now you can see the top 3, all the same team of Project 26 of ATC. Well, will McKenzie be able to steal his first win away of the season from Swirydowicz, or will Swirydowicz be able to hold him off here? And remember, there's no team orders between these guys. They are focusing first and foremost on their Drivers' Championships, and the fact they can make the results happen together. Well, 1, 2, 3 here would absolutely propel them away at the top of the team's championship if they repeat this over the night. But we will see, as meanwhile, a bit further down the order, change of place here. Sam Swift getting ahead of Andy Fox, and Fox right now, in fact, moving the place there to Marcel Fritsch. I do believe he might have had a bit of a slowdown there that he had to serve coming out of the corner. But he's going to dive up the inside here. That's going from very far back versus Marcel Fritsch, but in the end, well, it's a deceptive camera angle. It makes you think he's going to go into the side of the Audi, but not quite so. I think Fox there deciding to do that to just see how much length for the braking zone he's got if he wants to go for a late lunge into turn 1. And the answer is he's actually got a lot of distance. The Veloster's brakes are looking good there, so that's a bit of information he'll be taking to later, and we can also have that here for you guys and girls tuning at home. But from them, looking back to the lead of the Pro-Am class, this is Matthew Cheverton, keeping Clivens, Altrier, Stitchby and Twardock at bay. They are all together right now, 9th all the way through to 13th. So they've definitely had an intriguing race. We haven't caught as much as we would like to it, but they continue to push each other on as Altrier on the back of Clivens in towards the final bends. But meanwhile, to the front of the field we go, because as they do, what it is going to be a 1, 2, 3 here today for Project 26 ATC. It's Swirydowicz who takes victory ahead of Logan McKenzie, with Luciano Witvoet completing that podium. and then Wayne Douglas comes on home for his best result of the season in 4th place, just ahead of Isaac Doble, who holds off the attacks of Joe Coffin and Andrew Pike. And then we'll have Joe Doble taking home 8th, having started in 13th, just ahead of your prime winner there, who's proud of it. It's Matthew Cheverton ahead of Ben Altrier and Nick Clevins, who's 11th, and then Owen Stitchie on his debut race takes 12th place, 4th in the prime class ahead of Craig Twardock, with Gavin Garner and Jamie Doy completing that top 15. Lewis Mason comes on through for an AM win. Well done to him for Full Tilt Motorsport. My goodness, that changed the team, and also the car for the season and the new livery are all going well for the youngster, ahead of Sam Smith and Marcel Fritsch taking 2nd place there in the AM class. And it will be a 2-3 for WS Racing Esports and AM, because Adrian Fritsch and him will come on home in 23rd place in the footsteps of his father. But right now they'll be absolutely ecstatic on that podium. Lewis Mason will be jumping up and down in joy, but I can imagine, and indeed this is the first time this season, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to see a father-son together on a podium in the AM class, and well, that's absolutely lovely. Would you not agree? But meanwhile, Sam Exton and Matthew Jordan complete that top 25. We've got a few more drivers to finish this race. I do believe Phil McDougall's still coming on home. In fact, he's finished 2 laps down in, so we have actually had everybody finish this race. But as all the drivers cool on down, where it's definitely been a race full of stories for our first of 3 races here in Portland. Wojciech Swirydowicz, Logan McKenzie and Luciano Witvoet, they're all coming into the pits. They are the big story at the very front. 1, 2, 3 for Project 26 of ATC. And, well, right now, can anybody slow them down as the whole field comes on in? Matthew Sheraton as well. What a drive from him, coming through from 16th to 9th. And Ian, whereas other drivers got it wrong, particularly at the back end of lap for both Adam Wilson-Witt and Owen Stitchbury. Sheraton, meanwhile, got it absolutely right and made his way through to the win, with Ben Altrier and Nick Clevins on the podium with him, and Stitchbury in the end missing out on the perfect start to his season by finishing 4th instead of taking the Pro-Am win. Lewis Mason behind there coming into the pits, as does Marcel Fritsch and also Adrian Fritsch. They all calling down. A great set of stories there in the AM class. The 3 really ahead of the field, but George Stone, to be fair, made his way through the field, and so did Roy Plummer and Mark Hughes. Mark Hughes especially so, coming all the way from 40th to 31st. He'll be pleased with that, and he's still got 2 more races to see what else he can do. Try his worst, as they say. But as all the drivers cool themselves down, let's take a look to the scenic view, and with it, those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, for our first race of the day here at the Portland International Raceway in the US state of Oregon for round number 3 of Season 10 of the NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you, of course, in collaboration with Doble Motorcycles and iRacing. Wojciech Swirydowicz making it the win and leading home the 1-2-3 for his team, with McKenzie and Witvoet rounding off that podium. Indeed, Project 26 of ATC looking so strong, although Wayne Douglas, to be fair, did put himself in amongst them in qualifying, but he didn't have the pace in the race to stay with them. Instead, the NXTGEN Pink driver finished on a lonely 4th, 3 and a bit seconds ahead of Isaac Doble, with a Doble Sim Racing driver in 5th there, and fending off the attacks from his fellow Honda stars of Team Big Lips' Joe Coffin and Andrew Pike from the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Joe Doble took 8th place there, fought his way through the field to make sure he was inside the top 10. And we absolutely pleased as punch with that. And then Matthew Sheraton, your Pro-Am winner there for Aztec Racing, and an absolutely brilliant job of fighting his way through when he needed to in order to make those places count. Behind him was Full Tilt with Motorsports' Ben Altrier, who with that 2nd place, definitely picking up a good haul of points and re-finding the form that we saw in the season opener. And the Briton round off the top 10 ahead of Nick Clevins, who round off that Pro-Am podium in 11th place. Best of the rest as well overall for iRacing Esports, powered by Crest Autosport. And something tells me there's going to be a big smile on the number 13 driver's face. Outside of them, we then did see Owen Stitchbury take the 12th place, 4th in Pro-Am, after what was that brilliant pole position in qualifying. It did not quite work out in the race, but to be fair, he'll learn from that one going into race number 2 for RA Motorsports. And behind the Welshman, it was then for the 5th place Pro-Am driver, Craig Twardock for TSRC. Gavin Garner and Jamie Doy completed your top 15 for NXTGEN Pink. Then we did see 16th for Quainthouse Motorsports Ben Bennyworth, with Lewis Mason, your AM winner there. Another AM win for him this season. 17th, the Full Tilt Motorsport driver. We absolutely pleased as punch for that. He did it the hard way, holding off the attacks of several drivers. Between himself and the 2nd place man in AM class, there was Sam Smith. And then we did see Marcel Fritsch, runner-up in AM, 19th overall for WS Racing Esports. And then another Pro-Am driver, Andy Fox, who made his way into the top 20 over the race distance, making up for his qualifying session. And outside that top 20, in 21st place, we had Lee Horn. After his dismal start race, he did well to recover to 21st, and he had Carl Thompson and then Adrian Fritsch behind him, with the younger member of the Fritsch family rounding off your AM podium there for WS Racing Esports. Sam Exton took 24th. Now, this wasn't his race to start the day, but still, he's got some work to do, and he'll get to it in race number 2. Matthew Jordan there just behind him, 25th, and then we did have Alan McCain, 26th, ahead of George Stone, who did well to finish 4th in AM. Reece Watt, Benjamin Gregory and Roy Plummer completed your top 30, and behind the NXTGEN Blue Dry was GBRC's Mark Hughes, who went from 40th to 31st and wanted that place off a Plummer, but perhaps he'll get it in the next race. Joshua Downing was just behind it in 32nd ahead of Adam Wilson-Weir, whose late instant cost him dear. And then we did see Sean Dobie ahead of Michael Lees, with Scott Malcolm, Michael Clough and Andy Aldhouse completing your lead lap finishers. It was a lap down the end for Nigel Stock and Joseph Wright in respective instants of both drivers, and outside that top 40, not to be forgotten about, Philip Harris with that late instant with Nigel Stock, and also Fraser Rostance, before we then did come to your 2 lap down finishers of Phil McDougall and Jack Giles. And then we did have finishing an entire, what was a lap down, well not a lap down, retiring from the race with only half a lap completed, Mark Sykes there in 45th place. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, there's plenty more racing to come here today, because that was just race number 1 of round number 3 of the championship. And coming up in approximately what will be another 10 to 15 minutes time will be race number 2, another 16 laps. And who exactly we have to carry on the momentum? Will we see another 1, 2, 3 from Project 26 of ATC? Well, for all that and more, you haven't got long before we come back to find out, ladies and gentlemen. But as we leave you with a word from our title sponsor for this season, and that is none other than Doble Motorcycles. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We're a little bit back. We're back a little bit quicker than we perhaps expected to be. However, we do have a very short build up to what will be our second race of the day. And well, we are only approximately 1.5 minutes away from going racing once again here at the Portland International Raceway. And as our drivers get themselves set up in the pit lane and ready to go, well, what were the big stories of race number one? Well, firstly, Portland is an absolutely incredible circuit to go racing at, no doubt about it. We've seen it deliver some classic touring car racing action straight from the start. But into race number two we go, and what we also got to see was the fact that if you're able to get ahead, you may just be able to hold track position for the rest of the race, albeit a brave battle under braking could be the difference. And we did see that from several drivers, including none other than Gavin Gardner, who absolutely went on the attack at certain points, but had the company of his teammate Jamie Dory to contend with as they all set the way round. Now, given the fact we have seen the practice session here half the time norm of the normal time span, we'll just have to wait and see. I think we are going to go ahead, ladies and gents, with most, if not all, the drivers having made it into the session just in time. But we are keeping an eye on that just in case we do see an extension, if anything at all. I think we are going to see everyone make the way onto the grid just about. And, well, I can imagine that right now fewer drivers will be definitely panting to get back into the cars. You're expecting to add an extra 5 minutes, but not quite so. But these things happen every so often, and understandably, well, the admins of the NXTGEN racing team are doing their best to make sure things proceed smoothly on the night, but there can always be a few bumps and scrapes, no matter what. But as they all get themselves set, ladies and gents, with only 15 seconds left to go before we head to the grid, that gives us just enough time to say that we are excited for what's to come next. And that's, of course, race number two, and never 16 laps. They all start when they finished in race number one, but who exactly is going to get the job done this time in Oregon? It's time to find out as we head to the grid for race two. And so, as all the drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our second race of the day. Wojciech Swirydowicz lines up on pole position for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge in the company of his teammate Logan McKinsey, and they complete their 1-2-3 starting order with Luciano Witvoet right behind. Wayne Douglas starts full for NXTGEN Pink. Now he needs to try and chase the top guys down. If he can't, then we'll have Isaac Doble starting fifth there for Doble Sim Racing, knowing that he can try and put some pressure onto Douglas with a little bit less weight in the car. Doble Sim Racing driver, meanwhile, joined on the third road grid by none other than Joe Coffin. And Coffin right now very eager for Team Big Lips to try and find a way into fifth this time out, if not go even further. Andrew Pike starts seventh there for Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing. And it will be Matthew Shelton starting ninth, your pro and pole sitter. Now, he's done it once today. Can he make the magic happen again for the second time here? Well, that's what we'll have to wait and see. Starting in what will be none other than 10th alongside him will be Ben Allcheer, who's very eager to go racing once again, no doubt about it. And then for the full tilt Motorsport driver starting in 11th, it is Nick Clibbins, and the theme of Pro Drives continues, with the iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport driver will then be in the company of Owen Stitchbury, with the RA Motorsports driver looking to make amends from what was a great start to his day in qualifying, slightly upset by the fourth place finish in race one, but can the RA Motorsports machine make its way to the front this time? If not, Craig Tardock might be able to take a fight to him, starting 5th in the class, 13th overall for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and then we do have Gavin Garner starting 14th for NXTGEN Pink. In 15th is Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of Ben Bennyworth there for Quakemas Motorsport, both of them making great progress in race number one. And then we do have Lewis Mason starting 17th there, your AM pole sitter, and will winner of race number one there for Full Tilt Motorsport. And I do believe we've been informed that those Full Tilt cars can expect to have new liveries on them for this race onwards, and that they had their old liveries on the car previously. So that was a little bit of an error from the drivers there, and the team putting the right livery on the car at the right time. But still, right liveries aside, Sam Smith joins the newly liveried Full Tilt Motorsport 901, and there will be Smith who starts 18th there in the 27th for iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport. Your top 20 is completed by Marcel Fritsch for WS Racing Esports and NXTGEN Orange's Andy Fox. And outside that top 20, Lee Horn starts 21st, just behind his teammate, but ahead of Carl Thompson for GBRC. And then you will have none other than what will be Adrian Fritsch starting 21st for WS Racing Esports ahead of Sam Exton. Then the Team Big Lips drives followed up by Matthew Jordan for NXTGEN Pink and Alan McCain for iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport. George Stone starts 4th for the Yams in 27th for Type 2 Racing, just ahead of Reese Watt for JDM Motorsports. Ben Gregory starts 29th for Full Tilt Motorsport ahead of Roy Plummer. The NXTGEN Blue driver looking to go battling once again ahead of Mark Hughes for GBRC. Josh Dannon makes up the rest of the 16th row ahead of Adam Wilson-Weir for Type 2 Racing and Sean Doe for ATEC Racing. And we do have Michael East 35th on the grid for JW Motorsports ahead of Scott Malcolm. The Lumen Motorsports drive then be followed up by Michael Clove for NXTGEN Orange and Andy Aldhouse for GBRC. Then we do have Nigel Stock for Iris Esports powered by Crystal Motorsport just ahead of Joseph Wright. And outside that top 40, it's Philip Harris and Fraser Rostance with Phil McDougall and none other than Jack Giles completing your 44 starters. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the grid. They're all absolutely set and ready to go. And, well, we're all itching to see how they'll take it this time in towards turn number 1. I suspect it'll be just as rapid as it was the last time round. 16 laps to wait, and everybody is absolutely eager to go racing. No doubt about it. And we are just waiting now for the last couple of cars to give the thumbs up. We're also waiting for our safety car to get itself to the end of the pit lane. But when it is, and everyone's set, we were going green flag racing. And, well, understanding right now, as we look a bit further down the order to the onboard with Ben Altria, a full Tilty Motorsport driver there with the livery going back to blue. We're hoping he's not going to be getting the blues in this race, but here come the lights, ladies and gentlemen, for the second time today. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for our second race here. It's a jump start from Sam Smith right over here in my ear. He's got a black flag already. That will be a drive-through. But meanwhile, Wojciech Swirydowicz gets a good start right to the front of the field. McKinsey and Witvoet alongside. But in towards that opening corner here, all the drivers coming through. And as they do, the lovely Kujia Blimp shows, oh, that's 4 wide. Further down the order, they all get very close. It's been an instant further on back. And whoever went for that 4 wide there, my good lord, well done to them. But further back, it's all gone wrong. Jack Giles and Mike Hughes have been collected together. So the two have actually got around. And well, meanwhile, everyone else now is making the way around the circuit at full pace. Well, as we can see there, Andrew Pike make his way forward, but as they roll the way out to the corner, we'll see Joe Coffin and Joe Doble behind, and Matthew Sheraton holding on to the prime lead just about, although this is looking at a very closest battle right now, and Bedell Trin owns Stitchby right there. Nick Clemens has caught up to him a little bit, but he's gained a lot of place to Nick Clemens. Meanwhile, what exactly has happened to Craig Twardock? And the answer is he's fallen back a little bit. We'll have to wait to see what happens between them now as everyone starts to settle down. Albeit Shelton being pushed along by Altria. I think Altria's going to go for the move I said earlier if he can. And well, Full Tilty Motorsport going back to their old delivery, the older design. Definitely a classic one there. And that reminds me of the first time they were on the grid all the way back in Season 3. But running away from left into right here. And right now, will Shepperton hold his ground. And it's not going to be Altria's way to get them through, at least for that first time of that quarter today. On the way on around towards the next lap. Jamie Dory already up into 14th place. Keep it wide, of course. But in this race, the pressure is going to be on to be each side. What will be the top 13? If you can be, you're guaranteed to be in that reverse grid. And then there's a chance of you being in the reverse grid if you finish anywhere between 14th and 23rd. But here we go. Jamie Dory looking to hold off. What is Nick Clement? As he does so onto lap number 2, he goes safe and sound. Further back, meanwhile, well, Matthew Jordan here battling hard as Adrian Fritsch goes a bit deep. He takes the escape route. He will have to give the time back there. Matthew Jordan has done something very wrong. He's picked up a yellow flag for track limit. And meanwhile, Adam Wilson-Weir there rejoins off of the road. And well, as he makes way back on, it's going to be 2 by 2 here, as we do see Chloe and Weir together. But right now, Wilson-Weir makes his way on past 1. Does he get both of them? Yes, he does. He's going to be up the inside there. Adrian Fritsch is outside, offline, and trying to burn a slowdown as well. That's not the way you want to do it. As they make the way through turn number 6. Well, right now, Adrian Fritsch does get the slowdown burnt off, but he's going to lose a lot of places, and he's at fault here. And potentially opened himself up to even more places lost as Respot dives up the inside, and so does Joseph Wright. He gets ready to. Roy Plummer queuing up there. So right now, your pack of Pro-Ams and Ams towards the back of the field. They are all very tight together, and I can imagine everyone right now is actually chomping a bit to make a move as Andy Aldhouse steps out of line there in order to make sure that he can look for a move on Nigel Stock, and his teammate Mark Hughes gets a little bit closer as a result. But look there, Philip Harris right now looking up the inside. The privateer going for it, but the answer is Knives. We've got a lot of smoke up meanwhile coming through what is turns 9 into 10. It's got a roll for somebody, and Joe Coffin, I think, is on a bit of a recovery now. Coffin drops all the way down to 25th place. Big flash of the headlights there from the car at the front of this group. That is going to be the car of none other than what is, I do believe, none other than Nick Clemens. Well, not quite there, because that was a car which couldn't quite discern whose car that was there. I think that's Benjamin Gregory flashed his headlights. Not quite sure exactly why, but definitely flashed them for some reason or another. But still, it's all frantic action, whether you look left, right, or centre here on your screen right now, and that's what the NXTCC always delivers. But meanwhile, going all the way back to the front of the field. It's looking relatively calm for your top two as they're starting to break away from Logan McKenzie. We did see this right at the start of race number one, where Swirydowicz was able to pull away, and in the end Witvoet was falling back. And well, then we did see what was McKenzie catching up, and in the end made it to second place, but couldn't quite seal the win. He seemed to have the pace come to him later on over the race distance. But Douglas and Doble, they're still nose to tail here together, and Doble right now fancy his chances for what is that fourth place, but he's going to need to be a bit closer than that if he wants to try and go for the move into turns 9 and 10. Further back, Owen Stitchby's back into the lead of the prime class. How on earth has that happened? We've got a lot of replays to pick up before the knives are done. But as we do see Owen Stitchby and Bedell Trier together, Stitchby's absolutely flown his way into the lead of the class from what was a full place start here. Bedell Trier just behind, and it's Gavin Gott and Matthew Cheverton there in your picture. And they're going to complete out what will be the top 10, just ahead of Jamie Dory, who's the best of the rest here as they go to lap number 4. And then Andrew Pike is behind in 12th, and Craig Twardock right now is the man in the pivotal position of 13th, who would be guaranteed to be in that reverse grid no matter what number is drawn from the bowl. We'll see what number it's going to be shortly. Meanwhile, whilst this is happening, we do look a bit further back once again. Cole Thompson here. Looking up the inside, contact to the side of Reese Watt, sends Watt slightly sideways. Here comes Joseph Wright trying to go around the outside of the pair of them. That's going to be brave for Wright. And does he back off here going in towards the corner? No, he switches the inside, covers off Reese Watt there and says to Reese Watt, yes, I know you're not too happy, but I'm having this place off of you, thank you very much. And understanding, I think Reese Watt now might be saying a few words under his helmet, albeit it's more directed towards Cole Thompson than what is Joseph Wright, but there might be one or two there as well, just for the simple reason, Wright there definitely being very firm to say to the 32 Audi, look, I know how incensed you are, but I need to go race it off to place of own, thank you very much. A bit cheeky there of Wright, but to be fair, cheekiness is all part of the story. As meanwhile, Mark Hughes and Andy Halthouse continue to push onwards. It's in the rear of the picture. That's very sideways. That is Fraser Roston, so I think it's been turned at turn number 7. And well, he brings himself back on the road, but he's not happy about that at all. I think there might have been contact there with Adrian Fritsch. By looks of things, as Joshua Downing finds himself battling side by side here with the Douglas Racing esports car. That's definitely picked up some damage. And well, will he get ahead here before turn number 9? The answer is going to be yes, he will. But as he makes that move, we then look to a three-way fight coming out of the final corner. Michael Clough trying to push. Where's Adam Wilson-Weir along? As on the inside, on the left-hand side of your picture, that is going to be Cole Thompson, who's losing out his Audi there little by little as he tucks in. The Audi having the straight line speed, but the difference of slipstream there being key. Well, lap number 5 comes out as quickly as that, as right hand goes absolutely all guns blaze on the brakes there right now. I can tell you one thing, he is feeling very confident here today, and I can't fault him for his confidence, but he's got to be careful here, because the more pressure he tries to put on his rivals, well, understandably, they'll be looking more in their rear view mirrors that started to go defensive on him, rather than thinking about going forward. And then, the opportunity to chase down what will be that fourth place in the AM class off of Michael Clough, it might start to just fall away that little bit. But Watt and McDougall are behind at the moment, just waiting to get involved as we continue to ride aboard the next-gen blue Hyundai Elantra. And Joseph Wright right now definitely enjoying himself out there, no doubt about it. Our Legends commentator, of course, making his way into the car for this series. And as he makes his way on through right now, definitely showing he's not just fast with words, but he's also fast in the car. But heading down towards what will be that next braking zone. Here comes Watt, looking up the inside. Reese Watt going back at him now, and I think Reese Watt here is going to make this a very clear move up the inside. He does indeed as Reese goes away in the 2-1 on entry. Rubbing paint and rubbing more. And for Reese Watt, it all goes to Barry. It's a complete big shunt there. And well, Watt was expecting Wright to back out, but Joseph Wright said, no, I'm not backing out. And well, Watt coming into the wall there. That's going to be a difficult one to unpick, but Reese Watt's car in pieces. As meanwhile, Fraser Roston's there when charged off into the wall, but the camera cut away. So therefore we didn't get to see what exactly happened to Rostons' car, but I can predict it's going to be one thing only, a car that's going to need to be in the scrapyard. So therefore it's got to roll for Watt, and it's got to roll for Rostons. But we now need to take a look back at the race start, ladies and gentlemen, and at that incredible 4 wide in towards turn number 1. So we'll look a little bit further up with the order, but who exactly was involved in the 4 wide, I hear you ask? Well, I do believe as they all went green flag racing. We saw a jump start there. There was Smith's jump start that you can see, just slightly too eager to go racing, but credit where it's due, he tried to time himself to the light, and then we did have this battle. Now, Gavin Gardner was on the outside, Stitchby in the middle, and as they all made the way in, it was the 2 RS Esports cars there that made it 4 wide, and in the end, well, Owen Stitchby getting ahead, and going side by side with Gavin Gardner for the remainder of the run of the corners, as meanwhile it went very wrong further back. That was Jack Giles being turned on around. What exactly went wrong for him? And well, here's a replay to explain from a couple other drivers' perspectives. So Andy Fox has made his way on down the start for the straight, and as he made his way into that braking zone, he's your focus at the moment. Your next gen orange Veloster there, tapped on the rear by the looks of things from, was that Mark Hughes' car that tapped in for GBRC? Potentially. In fact, I don't think so. That might have been the other GBRC car there, because it was Mark Hughes who was in the end turned around. So it all went wrong. I think it was Scott Malcolm there. Let's get the on board from Scott Malcolm. So this was on board at Wimmers. He made his way down towards that braking zone and getting ready to go onto the brakes. And well, as he did so, car in front of him, they all checked up, and well, it all went very wrong. The 21 parked there, and Scott Malcolm had to come to a stop. So he wasn't actually involved in the incident as far as we thought. He just made sure to play it absolutely safe. But after that all happened, we had this for Joe Coffin on lap number 2. And this was Coffin getting it wrong, and Andrew Pike as well. So these two were literally nose to tail coming through turn number 9 into 10. Coffin losing the rear of the car and collecting Pike on the rear there in turn 13. Big Lips car adding to the woes there of Andrew Pike, but Pike able to get back together a little bit easier and carry on. But understandably, probably not expecting that to happen until it did. We had this for Benjamin Gregory just after that. This was Gregory versus what was your Veloster of, I believe that was Michael Lee side by side with him into the corner and being turned straight across the front there. And in the end, Benjamin Gregory brings himself back along, but Michael Lee's picking up the place there, and I think Gregory won't be too impressed about that. We then did have, what was this big month for Sam Exton? Only months later. And this was Exton on lap number 3, having things go a little bit wrong here into the same sequence of quarters. Side by side here, battling, went all in with the pace versus the 55. Side to side contact, and in the end escorted to the grass. But on that outside line there, well, brave as he did go for it, he had to expect that perhaps he would be given the elbow, but unfortunately a bit of an aggressive one at that. But with that, ladies and gents, we come back to your live racing. And as we do, well, we are towards the halfway point here. Still plenty more to come. Marcel Fritsch right now, your AM leader here. And taking that lead off of Lewis Mason in the early stage of the race. Well, understandably right now, he'll be thinking to himself, there's more still to come. Albeit, what can he do from this point? He took the lead on lap number 4. And since then, Lewis Mason now only 2.5 seconds behind. You can see Mason in the rear of the picture. There he is, as they get ready to go onto the brakes in the newly reliveried car there for Full Tilt Motorsport. He's got Matthew Jordan and George Stone for company. George Stone, meanwhile, has had a very quiet race so far. But speaking of silence, we're going to be shouting absolutely high and dry with regards to the fact we've got a change for lead going on, as that's Wojciech Swirydowicz under pressure here from Luciano Witvoet. The two teammates start to go battling here, and we're wondering when this was going to happen. It normally is the theme. Whoever takes the victory in race 1 compared to the other teammate then normally is going to have to go defensive for the remainder of race number 2 because of the extra weight in the car. Witvoet trying to go around the outside to inside here. He knows the line he wants, but in the end, Swirydowicz defend it hard. This will bring McKinsey, Doble and Douglas all into this, and then Joe Doble, meanwhile, Isaac Doble, his younger brother, in front. Well, right now, Joe Doble hoping he can get a bit closer as well. Owen Stitchbury, he then leads the next pack of cars here. He's fighting with Ben Altrier and Matthew Cheverton for the lead of the Prime class. He's really in a pickle right now, Stitchbury, as they head in towards turn number 4. Here they go, and the Welshman right now having to make sure he gives equal defence to both cars here as he rolls them through the corner. Cheverton back up the inside of Altrier. Lovely little bit of a switch back there for Cheverton. The Aztec Racing right now going firm with his rival of old ages, but as they roll off the corner, well, right now Stitchbury having a hold on for dear life versus the 001, but here comes Cheverton up the inside. Stitchbury goes to turn in, but in the end he knows he can only turn so far, and on the exit there, a little bit of contact between the two of them, trying to get the power down. They both push each other every step of the way along. Altrier right now banking on pushing Cheverton along, hoping it's going to pull it forward. As meanwhile going around the outside, there goes Dory. He's going to try and make it 4 wider as they get ready to go to the brakes. It's going to be Dory. Can he take all 3 of them? I think he's going to go for it, but then he backs off. Dory doesn't want to risk it. He doesn't want to try and pull off an absolute monster of a move, and well, as much as we would have loved to have seen it, I think it would have ended up in tears for somebody. So smart driving there for Jamie Dory, but he definitely really gave everyone a scare there, thinking he could make it that wide. Meanwhile, down the start finish straight, our leaders here, well, here is Witvoet versus what is Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz right now going inside to outside, and Witvoet just sliding loose there. So Swirydowicz right now continues to prove absolutely as wide as humanly possible. And it's back to then that second pack battle, and that's a big lunge from Jamie Dory up the inside of Altrier, but he just does not quite have the mileage there to get the job done. And Dory right now looking against the outside. Altrier going defensive. This is going to buy Cheverton some room, but Dory looking around all the way round the outside now. Well, that's brave, that's bold. Is it a bit brash? Yes, it is. He has to run wide, and as a result, he loses a bit of time with Gardner and Pike right behind, and Craig Dardock getting on the back of this queue. They are really right now pushing it, and understandably, all these drivers inside the top 13, arguably, they can afford to fight like this. They don't have to worry about the risk of losing places for that reverse grid. Further back down the order, we also got some great fighting happening in the AM class here, as Philip Harris right now all over the back of Andy Aldhouse, trying to make amends for what happened in race number 1 right towards the end of it. And well, Harrison is number 21. I think he'll be hoping he can perhaps sneak that 7th place off of Aldhouse if he just pokes and probes a little bit more. But he's got to be careful of the fact that Roy Plummet is right there with him, and so is Adrian Fritsch, and that will be the bottom end of the top 10 of the AM class for you. From them, and they'll make way the way back up to the front again onto lap 11. These laps are coming as quick and thick as fire, and as they get ready to go down in towards the chicane, well, Swirydowicz this time defending. Witvoet does not try and force it around the outside, nor does he go to the inside, so there's a change of plan here. What is the change of plan? The idea is to get a better run off of turn number 2 and then outrun his rival in towards turn number 3. And here he goes looking around the outside. Dory tried this only moments ago. It didn't work. How's it going to work for Witvoet by comparison? Well, the answer is it works a bit more. He's got a bit more confidence in the car. In fact, he's able to carry that line. He just doesn't quite get himself fully alongside in towards turn number 5. You could see what he's going for. If he was about what was half a metre further forward, he could have had that move on, but not quite. Swirydowicz knowing exactly the gap and to hold versus Witvoet and knowing when he can close the door versus when he cannot close the door. But that's to be expected when you do have one of the most decorated drivers in TCR racing in the world on iRacing, currently leading your field. Indeed, a 2-time NXTCC champion and a multi-time AlphaTaurian Challenge champion as well. You can imagine the American equivalent of the NXTCC. And as they make the way through the corners right now, will Swirydowicz absolutely dig it in. Indeed, he has dug the trenches nicely, and he's saying to everyone, come tramp over me if you can. But right now, I am not going down without a fight, and you can see that Witvoet and McKenzie are running out of options as Isaac Doble closes up, and Wayne Douglas meanwhile falls back a little bit and finds himself in no man's land at this point. But from then we come back to Stitchby, Cheverton and Rd3 as the sun goes out, but as they come on down, the clouds are just hiding it for a brief moment. I'm sure it will come on back, with Stitchby going to the fence as he possibly can here in a much lighter car compared to Cheverton. Cheverton does have 32.5 kilograms of success ballast in the car, and that means he's going to stop it hard. Stitchby meanwhile only the best part of about 8 kilograms, and therefore he's got a much more flexible Honda, but Cheverton gets a better run out the corner. He really nails that run, and here they go up towards turn number 4, and at this point I can imagine Rd3 is going to try and tug at the inside. Stitchby the outside here. Can he find the width all the way around the outside? Yes, he can, and now Rd3 has just got to try and get ahead and shut the door in his face in towards turn number 5. Can he do it? Yes, he just about can, and Stitchby there thought about lunging it back in, but then realised it was only going to end in tears. He had to swerve the car out of that in the end. But you can see Dory, Garner and Pike, they're all queuing up. Here's Andrew Pike, decides to make a 2-for-1 special. My good lord, that's absolutely monstrous. Makes contact with Dory. Dory rejoins there, and Pike right now lets him rejoin, lets him retake the position, but Andrew Pike going for it there. Well, I've never seen that today until now, and I can tell you one thing, the 57 driver Andrew Pike, he's definitely getting his gloves on here. He's right in the thick of it. He's enjoyed himself out there. And that's what we love to see from Andrew. When it's going right, you see the real touring car driver in him, Sonny, just appear out of nowhere. And that's a move that only Andrew Pike can do. But looking for back, Michael Lee's here. Also looking around the back of Lee Horn there. All catching up. Sonny, what is the run from 7th through to 11th place, has now become the run from 7th all the way through to 18th place for how much fight is going on. Ben Bettyworth here pulling out the pack. I think he's trying to understand what exactly is going on in front of him right now. That's almost if he's looking over the fence, if he was a child, looking over into the neighbour's next door garden and saying, what's going on there? Well, the answer is there's plenty of battling going on right in front of you, Ben. You've got to get your head back in there and go attacking. But meanwhile, Marcel Fridge and Nick Clevins also trying to make this work. And right now, understandably, nobody wants to lose a place right now because of the risk of losing opportunity to be. And that reverse grid, there's contact there between Michael Lees and Lee Horn. And Ian Horn sent sideways off the road as well. That is going to be none other than Marcel Fridge. He's on the grass, and Sonny Lewis Mason takes the lead of the AM class there just simply by being on the road when Marcel Fridge is not. George Stone now also takes the second place back off of Marcel Fridge right as Fridge rejoins. And Sonny, what's not going to come to AM lead for the Doris Racing Esports driver, is far from that now. But meanwhile, from them back to the very front of the field here. Indeed, it's kicking off everywhere you look. There's even fighting going on the right towards the back, and we'll get a view of that very shortly. Well, meanwhile, your leaders go on to lap number 14, and well, still, Wojciech Swirydowicz holding it. Witvoet at bay, McKenzie and Doble, they are still there. And Isaac Doble right now, what's he got to be figured at this point? He's got to figure out how to clear the first hurdle, which is the American driver in front of him, let alone what will be the two in front of him after that, the Dutchman and the Polishman. But here they go, Swirydowicz defending this time, albeit Witvoet almost there. Almost able to get to the inside of turn number 2 before Swirydowicz. He is really trying to push this right now, and Swirydowicz, it is like a ball to a matador right now. Swirydowicz has got the red cape. He is tossing it right in Witvoet's face and saying, go for it. And then Witvoet's obliging, and Swirydowicz every time is getting just that 0.1% more risky with it in terms of defending. It's all fair racing, but Witvoet right now, you can definitely see they are walking a very fine line. And the number 1 rule of racing, of course, is don't take your teammate out. The number 2 rule of racing is beat your teammate. Without about taking them out, that is. Indeed, rules 1 and 2 are not mutually exclusive, and right now as these 4 drivers run together, well, where's McKinsey going to get involved? Or is McKinsey's job here just to make sure that Isaac Doble can't spoil the party on the podium? Well, we're going to see, because here comes what we went for this time on the inside in towards turn number 9. He's got a huge overspeed here. They're going to go 2 wide in. They trade paint once. They trade paint twice. Do they tap a third time? No, not quite, but drifting sideways there. Swirydowicz on the inside. Meanwhile, Witvoet drifting his way all the way around the corner, and as he keeps it together, he runs out wide. Witvoet runs the tyre barrier, but avoids it just about, and they go onto the penultimate lap. But here comes Logan McKinsey, the man who's been Mr. Patient all the way through. And looking at the inside right now, still lost the dry. Here comes Isaac Doble as well. Has Witvoet lost out here? Has his eagerness cost him dear? Well, no, it hasn't, because he sweeps back in front in towards turns 1 and 2, and he holds his ground. Meanwhile, back to Sheraton versus Altria for the Pro-Am lead battle. And it is still Sheraton holding on. Altria looks to the switch back there, but Sheraton, he knows Altria like the back of his hand. These two have raced each other for the best part of 2 years in this series, and they know every in and out of each other. And right now, well, this is classic racing between these two. Stitchbury, well, he may be a newcomer to the grid, but I get the feeling he's getting very familiar with the story in front of him right now, and he wants to be a part of this. The 3rd place Pro-Am driver, he wants that lead back, otherwise he's going to fall foul of it twice here today. And in race number 3, can he make the magic happen then? Well, he'll have something to say about that. But coming up towards what they're braking zone, here comes what will tree up the inside. He dives all in, but as he does, Sheraton there carrying that outside line will carry a bit more speed. He gets his elbows out there. My goodness, that is not a love tap there. And I know Valentine's Day is only 4 days away right now, but I can imagine they won't be sending cards to each other at this rate. As here they go, and Stitchbury pushing Sheraton along. He wants Sheraton to lead, so that way he can get on through as well. In towards turn number 9 they come. Behind him, Jamie Dory's watching this right now. The pro driver wait to see him pick it up. Altria goes deep. He goes to the grass. He goes to rejoin, and in here he joins, but Dory's blocked. And meanwhile behind, it's going to be Andrew Pike taking the inside of Dory here. As the white flag's out, a leader's already going down towards turn number 1, but this fight is absolutely building up to a crescendo, as that slow down penalty for what was our wayward Altria has made his way back on, and he's burnt that slow down already. But right now, will there be another move? Because now it's Pike versus Dory here for what is 10th place overall, 7th for the pro drivers. And into that braking zone, Pike on the inside, but knows he's the outside of the next part of the chicane, and he's going to try and go all the way around the outside in the better handling Honda. And the answer is going to be yes, he can do it. So now he's got the speed through 3 and in towards 4. Here comes Gavin Gardner, suddenly to jump on top of his teammate, essentially try and make the move. That's not going to work, as Craig Twardock pushes him into the corner and says, well, I can't get involved if you don't. And well, as they roll the way through, 2 wide every step of the way. And in the end, Andrew Pike right now is going to get ahead. Dory's still got his nose in. There's contact, and it does send Pike sideways. And in the end, well, it was marginal, but I think there, Andrew Pike's going to be fuming. I think Dory's going to look back at that one immediately and realise that's on him. But I suspect I'll have a chat after the race. They're the two of them are good friends off the circuit, where we see Lewis Mason and Lee Horn together right now. And Lewis Mason back in your AM lead is trying to step one more step away from his rival, but will he be able to do so? As meanwhile, back to the front of the field we must come, ladies and gentlemen, because out of the final couple of quarters they roar, and as they do so for Wojciech Swirydowicz, well, a race 1 win looked quite comfortable. This race 2 win has been anything but that, but it's still going to be a 1-2-3 for the team. But it's going to be Swirydowicz who just holds off Luciano Witvoet to the line, and Logan McKinsey completes the triple podium ahead of Isaac Doble, with Wayne Douglas in 5th place there, just ahead of Joe Doble. Matthew Sheraton will hold on for the prime win here in race number 2, ahead of Owen Stitchbury, who is runner-up this time. Head of Ben Altria completes the prime podium. Gavin Gardner takes 10th, head of Craig Twardock, Nick Clunes and Ben Bennyworth, who's confirmed to be in that reverse grid. And then we look back to 17th place, and you'll see Lewis Mason making it another and win 2 from 2 so far today, just ahead of George Stone, with Michael Lees and then Marcel Fritsch. After his excursion to the grass, Fritsch does complete what will be your top 3 of the AM drivers there. Sam Exton was 21st, head of Matthew Jordan, and Joe Coffin for Big Lips Racing will be the driver who is the last of those eligible to be in that reverse grid. But we will see whether he gets lucky and he gets one of the rarer numbers drawn out of the bowl. But as they all cool it down, ladies and gentlemen, my goodness, what a race it was. And Andy Fox here just holding off Sam Smith to line for 37th, and Smith behind him. And then Alan McCain will bring on home, will be 39th ahead of Mark Hughes. And they will be your last finishers on the lead lap in a race that absolutely exploded onto our screens. It was an incredible race here in our second of the day. And I suspect we are going to see the tempo rise even more when we chuck a reverse grid into the mix for what will be our final race. But as our Project 26 ATC drivers make their way into the pit lane, well, Luciano Witvoet, he huffed, he puffed, he threw everything at Swirydowicz to try and get through, but Wojciech Swirydowicz then showing he's not just a quick driver, but he's also one of the best defensively out there when it comes to Portland. Matthew Shelton, meanwhile, he cools things on down, and right now I don't think he's going to quite believe he's made it back-to-back prime wins so far today, and what a drive it was, given the fact that for the Aztec Racing team, all he needed to do was dig in and deliver, and he did exactly that when it mattered most. But as he calls them down, and needs several drivers just make the way into that pit lane, Lewis Mason as well, back-to-back wins for Full Tilt Motorsport in the AM class, and a huge grin on his face, I suspect, as George Stone and Marcel Fritcher made the way in. But without further ado, let's take a look at those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. So once again, it was a 1, 2, 3 in race number 2 of round 3 of the NXTCC Season 10, brought to you on iRacing for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge. The trio separated by only 6 tenths of the finish line, and Swirydowicz ahead of Witvoet and McKinsey. That's how they finished. Eyes at Doble, meanwhile, in 4th place there for Doble CM Racing, delivering it in the 65, just there the 66 of Wayne Douglas. And the devil's in the detail, but not for the man, missed an extra 6 in his door number. And in the end for Wayne Douglas, a 5th was the best he could achieve, but he fought hard for it. Joe Doble took 6th place for Doble Sim Racing, and a solid drive from him, no doubt about it, but couldn't quite catch up to the lead group. But he was able to steer clear of the Pro-Am pack, which started off with Matthew Sheraton there, winning in class, 7th overall, and the Aztec Racing driver really putting on a first-class defensive drive. Owen Stitchfield then managed to sneak his way into 2nd in the Pro-Am class, making him into race number 1, but he still is chasing that first win of the season. Could it happen in his final race of his debut day? We'll see for RA Motorsports, and the Welshman followed up there by the 3rd place Pro-Am finisher of Ben Altria for Full Tilt Motorsport. 10th place went to Gavin Garner, who in the end managed to sneak his way through when it all came to madness between Andrew Pike and Jamie Dory in the closing stages. The NXTGEN Pink drive just ahead of Best of Best driver Craig Twaddock for TSRC Esports, who definitely stayed with the lead Pro-Am pack and made sure that he picked up some solid points. Then it was 12th place for Nick Clemens, iRace Esports powered by Crest Autosport, holding against Ben Beddyworth for Great Mass Motorsport, who takes the season best performance there with 13th place, 6th place in the Pro-Am class for a race 2 of the day. And then Andrew Pike, after that contact with Jamie Dory, well, the two addressed it, and Pike was given the place back by Jamie Dory just at the finish line. Great sportsmanship being shown between the two drivers there. Lee Horn took 16th, just ahead of your AM winner of Lewis Mason. The Full Tilt Motorsport driver may not have been leading in the early stage of the race, but he avoided the trouble and retook the lead when it all went wrong for Marcel Fritsch. Fritsch finished 3rd in the AM class, down in 20th, but between Mason and Fritsch, we did see a run-up in the AM class of George Stone in 18th there for Type 2 racing, and then the Pro-Am driver Michael Lees for JW Motorsports, who end up in a few bumps and scrapes. Outside that top 20 then, behind Marcel Fritsch, we do see beyond the AM podium what was there. 21st for Sam Exton, ahead of Matthew Jordan, and Joe Coffin 23rd will be the last driver who can potentially take that reverse grid slot at the very front of the field. And then behind the Team Big Lip Strider, it was Full Tilt Motorsports, Benjamin Gregory, with Carl Thompson in 25th. Joseph Wright finishing in 4th place there in the AM class. Solid performance from him. Definitely right in the thick of the fighting for NXTGEN Blue. Head of Phil McDougall. And then we did see the AM pack of Adrian Fritsch, Philip Harris, Roy Plum and Sean Doby make the way through to 31st place. And shout out to Philip Harris there. After what was a miserable end to his race number 1, did very well there to come on home in what was 6th place in the AM class in race number 2, so some good points for him in his 2nd race of the day. 32nd was Scott Malcolm ahead of Joshua Downing with the Type 2 racing driver, not able to make that much progress given what happened at the start of the race, but still he was ahead of Jack Giles for none other than Euro Titles Endurance, and then we did see Adam Wilson-Weir struggling on home to a 35th place finish. Nigel Stott was 36th ahead of Andy Fox, with Sam Swift, Alan McCain and Mark Hughes completing that top 40, and outside the top 40, a lap down, it was Michael Clough, Reese Watt and Andy Althouse, and 5 laps down with the retirement, Fraser Roston. So 44 starters, and in all 44 classified as finishers, ladies and gentlemen, and we've still got one more race to come, because coming up next is, of course, the final race today, and it is your reverse grid race. But the big question that we're all dying to know the answer to is exactly where are we going to be reversing the grid from? Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we come to the commentary booth, and good evening to you all, and it's definitely time now to find out exactly how we reverse the grid. Now remember, so far this season, we have had 17th, we have also had 20th place, but what exactly will we see this time out? Well, we do have our NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl here. In this bowl are the numbers 6 through to 12, and what I'm going to do very shortly is close my eyes and draw one ball at a time, and when we add them up, that's where we'll be deciding where the grid is reversed from for the final time today. So there's the initial shuffle, and now we take our first ball out of the bowl. And our first number for today is going to be the number 9. So the number 9 sees another appearance, I do believe, as I double check there on the data that we have. Indeed, the number 9 makes its third appearance of the season. It has yet not to appear in the lottery polls. That's interesting. That's a bit of an enormous statistic. But what is it joined by? Let's take a look. There's the shuffle. And our second number of tonight. Well, it makes its first appearance and it's right next to 9. No, it's not number 8. It is going to be number 10, which means it is a top 19 reverse grid and none other than Michael Leese, after a dismal race number 2, gets the right at redemption by starting on pole in race number 3, and he will be joined on that front row by none other than George Stone, who has Lewis Mason right behind him for company. It's going to be an interesting grid then, ladies and gentlemen, for our final race of the day. In approximately 10 to 15 minutes time, we'll be back for it and plenty more racing action. But as we leave you with some words from our title sponsor for this season. That's none other than Doble Motorcycles. We will see you again very shortly.
Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for one final race tonight. Indeed, the first two races here, our all-new venue of Portland International Raceway, have proven to be absolutely incredible. Race number 2, a three-way battle for the win, arguably a four-way battle for the win at the end. And also we got to see a four-way fight for the Pro-Am win and also a three-way fight for the Am win. I get the feeling right now that after this season, when we look back at this calendar and think to ourselves, what circuits do we want to repeat going into, say, Season 11 or Season 12? I suspect Portland International Raceway is going to make its way back onto the calendar. But still, that's my opinion. But I do wonder what our drivers are thinking because they're enjoying themselves out there, no doubt about it. But race number 3 is to come then. We've got another 16 laps on the horizon. As everybody gets themselves set for it, well, what can we expect in our final race of the day? The answer is we can expect anything. It's a top 19 inverted grid. It is going to open up the door, no doubt about it. And there are going to be several drivers now who will be thinking to themselves one thing and one thing only. They are going to be thinking about the fact that it is going to be incredibly intense and therefore places will need to be picked up. But of course, several drivers are going to have a lot of weight in the car, including this man, Wojciech Swirydowicz, who once again will take the max for the 56 kilograms in the car. And this is always the equaliser race, whereby starting in 19th, how far can he rise up through the ranks? Although saying that, Luciano Witvoet last time out, Fuji making his way all the way from 20th through to what was the win. Well, definitely showing that even the weight of the car, the Audi in particular at Fuji, seemed to be a very strong car regardless. And do keep in mind, of course, those who finish in the higher positions in each race, they cannot run the option setup necessarily. So therefore, it does mean that for some of these drivers right now, all the way to the car, plus many drivers who may have saved the option setup for the final race today, it could serve to really go against them or perhaps even play into their hands. But there's so many different permutations here, and that's going to be on the minds of so many of our drivers. But as we do get ourselves set for one final tour of the circuit, or one final attack of the circuit, I should really say, can we grab a word with any of our drivers? I do wonder. Well, I wonder if we might be able to catch up with a man who is none other than Ben Altria as he gets himself ready to go into the car. Although I do believe the car's still being in the back of the garage at the moment, so unfortunately we can't catch Altria at this time. Well, that'd be great to hear his words on his battle with Matthew Cheverton. And unfortunately we can't get a word with Cheverton either, as I understand it. He's not available for comment, but we'd love to hear from him if we could. I can tell you one driver who we definitely get a word with. Here is none other than Isaac Doble. And let's see if we can get a word on board of the man as he makes his way around here with a little bit of time to go. So we'll see, ladies and gentlemen, if we can get a patch through to the car of Isaac Doble. Please bear with us just a brief moment. And as we get a patch through to the car, Isaac, have you got time for a quick chat live on air?
Yeah, that's fine.
Isaac, it's been looking good so far today. 2 top 5 finishes overall. Are you happy with how things have gone?
Yeah, it's been a solid evening. It's nothing too special in terms of podiums and race wins, but getting some good points, and hopefully we can try and progress more, maybe to a top 10, top 5 finish in this last one.
Oh, 100%. I have to ask, what do you feel has perhaps been stopping you from getting the podiums? Is it the Honda, or is it just the guys in front are a little bit too quick?
I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, Wojciech and Luciano with weight, it just doesn't seem to affect them. I was happy with my my result in race 1 with my weight, and thought I could maybe push forward and challenge them in race 3, but race 2, sorry, but got stuck behind Logan McKenzie, I think, and I just didn't quite have enough out of the corners to challenge.
All fair play, but you're starting ahead of them in this final race today. A top 19 inverted grid. You'll be starting another 60th place, so surely this time you've got to be ahead of them.
Yeah, I'll try my best to stay ahead of them for sure and get some points over them and see how high up I can get in terms of getting through the pack.
Well, Isaac, we'll leave you to it. Best of luck, and we'll see you at the finish line.
Thank you.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Isaac Doble, we're getting a nice, long, extended conversation with him, talking out there the fact it seems as though for Wojciech Swirydowicz and also Luciano Witvoet, even the success ballast in the car, it doesn't seem to slow them down. Now, if you're thinking at this point, is there a risk that perhaps they're not running the success ballast? Well, if they were to, not saying they're not, it will be checked after the race. We do have a stewarding team in place that checks all the races and indeed all the onboard data of these cars to make sure everybody is running the correct weight in the car. And I don't doubt for a second they have been running that weight. But really talking out there the fact I'm very happy of what has been the 2 finishes inside the top 5 so far, but was hoping for a bit more in race 2. But now he has a golden opportunity here because we do take what is his position. We put him into 16th ahead of that top 3 of the Project 26 ATC cars. It also has slightly less weight than them, where he will be carrying the best part of 34 kilograms, if my memory serves me correctly. And therefore, Doble right now will know that he's got to try and carve his way through as quickly as he can before they potentially get the upper hand on him. But indeed, for anyone inside that top 19, there's going to be risk versus reward. And up and down the field, who exactly will be rewarded here in our final race of the day? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to find out, because it's time to head to the grid for race 3 of 3 in round 3 of the NXTCC Season 10 on iRacing. And so here we go to the grid for one final time today, and here is exactly how they'll all line up. Benefiting from a top 19 inverted grid, Michael Lee starts an overall and pro pole for JW Motorsports. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by none other than George Stone, who will be your AM pole sitter. The Type 2 racer drives then followed up by his fellow AM peer of Lewis Mason, who is gutted not to potentially inherit what would be the pole position once again, but he's got to be happy about the fact he starts in that second row. Lee Horn is your leading pro driver there in 4th. How he'll be happy with that, given how race number 1 started today, the fact he recovered well in race number 2, and now he's been rewarded with it in race number 3. Can he now make it an overall win? NXTGEN Orange Trial will be followed up by Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink, and the Sim Racing Collective Esports is Andrew Pike, who was getting a little bit impatient in race number 2, given the Pram battle in front of him, but he's now going to be gritting his teeth and going one more time. Ben Beddyworth for Quatermass Motorsport and iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosports Nick Clibbins line up on your 4th row, with row number 5 being split between Craig Twardock for TSRC and NXTGEN Pink's Gavin Gardner. Outside of that top 10, starting in 11th, it's Ben Altrier for Fuji Motorsport ahead of Owen Stitchbury for RA Motorsports, the Welshman in the company behind him of the Britons of what will be there, Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing and Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing. Wayne Douglas, a bit of a lonely into his race in race number 2, he starts 15th, he's in pretty much plenty of company in this one. The next gen Pink driver in the company of Isaac Doble in particular, who we spoke to only moments ago, starting in 16th. The Doble Sim Racing driver then be followed up by the Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge pair of Logan McKinsey and Luciano Witvoet on the 9th row of the grid, and then your winner of race number 2, two-time winner here today. Can he somehow magically make it free? It's Wojciech Swirydowicz there in 19th. Marcel Fritz just missed out on the reverse grid. He starts in 20th there. Now he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to take the AM win in this one. And also keep the fact that WS Racing Esports Drive does have plenty of company behind him. Not of AM drives, however. It's Pro-Ams, the former Sam Exton for Team Big Lips and NXTGEN Pink's Matthew Jordan. And then we do have Joe Coffin for Team Big Lips and Full Tilt Motorsports Benjamin Gregory on row 12. Row 13, it's going to be Carl Thompson for GBRC ahead of Joe Wright, who makes it 4th place in the AM class. NXTGEN Blue Dry there in firm company. He's got Phil McDougall just behind him for 6R Project Black, and then Adrian Fritz, who completes the AM top 5 there for WS Racing Esports. Completed the top 30. A great race too for Philip Harris. Can he go even further? Can he take his first top 5 or even his first AM podium? We will see. But the privateer does have the promo of Roy Plummer alongside him, starting 30th for NXTGEN Blue, and then outside of the top 30. Sean Dobie 31st for ATEC Racing ahead of Scott Malcolm. The Lumen Motorsports drivers then been followed up by Joshua Downing for Type 2 Racing ahead of Jack Giles for Euro Titans Endurance, and then Wilson Weir looks to try and make haste after a miserable race number 2. The Type 2 Racing driver there now starting 35th ahead of Nigel Stock, and behind the iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport driver, it is going to be both Andy Fox for NXTGEN Orange and Alan McCain for iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport. Mark Hughes for GBRC and NXTGEN Orange's Michael Clough complete your top 40, and outside the top 40 it is going to be Reese Watt starting 41st for JW Motorsports ahead of Andy Aldhouse for GBRC, and on the final spot of the grid it is going to be none other than what will be Fraser Austin's 43rd out of 43 starters who made their way back onto the grid for this final race of the day. Well, NXTGEN Blue Drive may bring out the rear of the field, but will he be at the rear of it come the end of it? Indeed, who exactly will be at the front and rear of it come the end of it? That's what we're going to wonder, ladies and gentlemen, as all this field right now gets ready to go. An absolutely brilliant mix of TCR machines. And indeed, could this be the year of TCR and iRacing, given the prospect of a new TCR arriving in the Season 2 update in only approximately 4 weeks' time? Well, that's the future. Let's stay in time with the present now. Here come the lights for the final time today. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights, and as quick as that, it's lights out, away we go. Everyone's surprised by the start, but as they make their way down towards turn of 1, Michael Lees gets the best start of them all. Black flag for Scott Malcolm right at the back of the grid for a jump start from what we're hearing, but into the opening corner they go, and as they do, the blimp carrier there perfectly primed over the top of the chicane, and as they all weave their way through, a little bit of big lock up there, going sideways for one of our Audi drivers, but otherwise they're all making it all through so far. A bit of Constantino, a bit of bump and crunch there, but just through, and he goes round there, and that's going to be rolling backwards to one of our cars. That's Philip Harris who goes round, and after his good luck in race number 2, his bad luck strikes once again. But meanwhile, looking to the front of the field, Michael Leese already started to tear away here as we do see Jamie Dory fighting with Nick Clemens. Clemens trying to come at him as Dory already on the march and running the way now up in towards turn number 7 here. Well, the sun is setting and you can definitely see it on the cars, the big old shine. But meanwhile, trying to shine high is Logan McKenzie looking all the way around the outside of Owen Stitchbury. That's not going to work as Isaac Doble, meanwhile, has a visible start. Hold up, that's Wayne Douglas spinning across the grass. He comes back on after doing a 360-degree pirouette because he brings himself back together. How exactly did he end up like that? I do not know. But right now, he's dropped all the way down to 26, probably 28 for this rate. They're all piling on through, and Wayne Douglas right now has definitely been sent for 6, and he's got to try and get himself back together. Otherwise, that's not just cricket. But meanwhile, Adam Wilson-Weir trying to go around the outside of him, elbows out between the two. Wilson-Weir forced onto the apex cover turn number 10, and that will send Douglas out wide. Douglas going deep now, and Wilson will force his way back up the inside here with the door being wide open. Why would he not? And as they make the way down that start finish straight, well, that's the end of lap 1. But on to lap 2 they go. It's Lease ahead of Stone. That's your prime leader ahead of your AM leader. Then we've got your pro leader of Horn in 3rd. Mason is 4th ahead of Pike, followed by Dory. Then it's Clemens, the second of your primes, in 7th. Head of Bennyworth, followed by Twaddock. Then it's Gavin Garner and Joe Doble, who round off your run to 11th place. Best of the rest there is Joe Doble, just ahead of Matthew Cheverton, with Owen Stitchbury, Logan McKenzie and Ben Altrier completing that top 15. And we couldn't quite catch a word with Ben Altrier before this race, but I suspect right now, if we were to ask him how he's feeling, I suspect he'll be saying this is not the way I wanted it to start. He's dropped a long way back, and he's got a lot of work now to do as a result as he tries to chase after what will be the prime win in this race of the day. But as they all make their way on around, you can see everyone right now running nose to tail. Everyone really going into his line astern here, whereas previously it has been too wide very early on. But I suspect everyone is right now really biting into this race and trying to see exactly what pace they can get and trying to get those tyres up to temperature as quickly as they can. Because track temperature has dropped compared to our previous 2 races. And here goes the move for Andrew Pike. Well, in the end, it's not going to work out. In fact, that was a move being made there, I do believe, my apologies, not for Andrew Pike. That was being made by Lee Hall and George Stone. Meanwhile, Andrew Pike and Lewis Mason stay exactly where they are. And we're behind Jamie Dory here looking for an opportunity to get involved if he can after his battles with Pike in race number 2, but understandably there, I think right now playing the game have been a bit more hesitant after what was his wayward contact with the Sim Racing Collective esports car. But here they go, underneath the hashtag here is Oregon Board, and as they come on down, well, the premier places to visit, of course, in Oregon, well, he tries to come into the braking zone right now, and meanwhile, further back, Joe Doble here, well, looking to be nose to tail, as Matthew Shevers has to come off Stitchbury, and we're briefly caught up with Stitchbury in between the races whilst he was walking down the paddock. He's taking a bit of breathing stretch his legs. He was saying to me about the fact he's been loving the racing so far, and he's hoping he could go even further in race number 3. Can he finally take that win? Well, right now it definitely looks so it might not be going that way, but still plenty of time to tell. And I think the only time you could say the results have happened is when they've crossed that finish line, but even then it could all end up in the stewarding room. But meanwhile, Phil McDougall's out onto the grass there. He's seen himself take a bit of a trip. That's a rallycross line you don't normally want to see. I don't know how he's ended up there, but I can tell you he's ended up there in the wrong time in the wrong place. But meanwhile, back to Ben Altrier, as he fights for Isaac Doble now makes his way through, and Altrier here is slipping down the order like a stone. He's got a lot of weight in that car, to be fair to him. He does have 28 kilograms compared to his previous weights. That will be holding him back. And making his way down towards what we turn number 9 here. Isaac Doble right now powering his way on through, and well, all these drivers, nobody wants to be too wide anymore to this sequence of beds. I think right now they've all learned that by the time you get to turn 9 you need to sort things out, as otherwise you're going to lose a lot of time. Meanwhile, Dory versus Pike and Mason here, they get fighters. Lewis Mason is propelled down the order 2 places, so your second place AM driver right now losing George Stone, who in turn has Lee Horn on his inside here down towards the braking zone of 1. But what we can see there is Dory looking up the inside of Pike, Andrew Pike giving him the shoulder and saying to him, no you don't. Meanwhile, Lee Horn goes all the way around the outside there. A Stone, lovely move from the pro driver. It's what we come to expect for him over his extensive time on the NXTCC grid, and now he's only got one target between him and a return to overall victory. We'll have to wait and see where he can chase down Michael Leese at this point, because that is a growing gap of 1.4 seconds. But now in clear air, surely he'll have the opportunity to really deploy the pace that we know he has. Further back, Lewis Mason finds himself side by side here with Craig Twardock, 2 wide through 4, 5, and now getting ready for 6 and 7. Here they go, and in towards turn number 7 in particular, and Twardock falls back initially, but now dives back up the inside of his fellow Honda driver, and Mason gives him all the real estate to play with there, and I think that's more just to make sure he doesn't lose out and end up in unnecessary contact. But meanwhile, we see a flash of the headlights there from George Stone. He's not happy about something. I think he's been propelled to the grass in the battle with Pike and Dory. At turn number 7, we'll get a replay of that shortly, but still Andrew Pike and Jamie Dory right now fighting 2 wide into turn 9. They're going to repeat what they did in the previous race, and in the end, do they survive it? Yes, they do, just about. And Andrew Pike right now gets ahead here, but my goodness, I can imagine his dad Roger right now is probably watching this and thinking, careful Andrew, don't make any mistakes at this point, don't throw it away this early on. And right now Andrew Pike, he's got a sensible head on him, no doubt about it, but as they come down towards turn number 1, Jamie Dory as well, he's going to look for this here as he gets close, but in the end backs off entirely, but makes the TSRC driver think about his positioning as they roll the way through turns 1 and 2 and up towards 3. Lewis Mason, meanwhile, he's dropped down to a degree. He's dropped, in fact, he's had to take the escape road there. That's going to be a yellow flag that he's going to serve a slowdown penalty for taking the cut-off route. But I think he's just outbroke himself into the corner or perhaps been elbowed out. Not quite sure the story, but he's going to be elbowed out even more now as even more tries coming through. Still burning that slowdown penalty, and eventually he will get rid of it, but he's going to lose so much time and places here to the point that he's now got Joseph Wright only 3 seconds behind him. So suddenly, the man who's running in third in the AM class who leapt ahead of Marcel Fritsch in the early stages, well, Lewis Mason right now is a target for this man. And keep in mind, Mason does have the maximum success ballast in his car compared to Joseph Wright, and that is definitely going to feel very much a heavy car. And right now, can really go on the attack here and look to see what he can find as a result. But in terms of what we can find further down the order, Phil McDougall will fighting with Adrian Fritsch. And it looks like Adrian has had a bit of a difficult start to his race. He's dropped a long way back. McDougall loses out there as Hughes gets ahead of him. And whilst these tries make their way on down the long stretch, we can still see where's the swap in other places as Sean Doby, meanwhile, fighting 2 wide here with Cole Thompson. Cole Thompson's going to make his way out the inside to the outside, so it's going to be a relatively straightforward pass. And I don't think Doby's going to have a response here other than to tuck in behind. But meanwhile, coming back towards the front of the field, Wojciech Swirydowicz right now fighting with Logan McKenzie. Although you say the words fighting, do we actually mean they're working together, perhaps? It might be, because it's what the place around. But here comes Sam Exton looking out the outside to inside and forces wound past there, the Boys Project 26 car. But now they're going to be 2 wide here with Bedell Trier still trying to find a way to thread the needle in this one. But will he be able to get on the inside of Exton in towards turn number 4? He's going to be at the mercy here of what will be essentially McKenzie putting his elbows out, and Exton's given the place to operate and breathe. And that's going to put him back on the inside here for turn number 5. And in the end, McKenzie backs off entirely there. I think McKenzie thought with some oversteer there, because he suddenly lost all his momentum, and there goes all Trier up the inside. So Bedell Trier right now takes the fight to McKenzie. McKenzie still hold his ground, and the number 4 driver here defending hard. And all Trier in the end looks all the way around the outside, but runs out of road, not unfairly so. And now up towards turn 9 they go. No change between them. All but Sam Exton taking that place and landing it, but McKenzie meanwhile keeping all Trier at bay. We're saying that McKenzie looking back up the inside now of Exton. Logan McKenzie really wanting his place off of him, and I think he wants the right to catch up to his teammate. But Exton runs intentionally deep there. This will slow them all down considerably. Taps the rear of Exton's car as McKenzie, and in the end he'll gain a little bit off of it there. That won't be pushed to pass necessarily, but definitely getting very bumpy between those guys, and now making the way down towards turn number 1. We can see Benjamin Gregory on the back of this now, and I think he's here to help out his teammate of Trier as we ride aboard here. And well, Gregory at this point is probably going to be thinking of the 2 Bens. Come on, Ben, I need you to get a move on here as he battles side by side with Exton in towards the chicane. And right the way I'm through right now, we're really in the popcorn seat view for this battle. And keep in mind, this is a 7th place in the Prime class right now, but the significance of this is much greater given the fact we are looking. The 2 guys in front really have been 2 of the fastest drivers here today at the circuit. Albeit Exton goes a little bit deep there. That's going to open the door to Gregory. And Gregory here is not going to wince at this. He is not going to flinch at all. He will now get stuck in to buy all Trier some breathing room. Coming through that left-hander. And we're now in towards that Brains over turn. Number 7 they go. Gregory is still there on the inside. He is forcing this all the way round. And we'll come to blame for that as meanwhile Exton now goes deep. And here comes none other than Lewis Mason who wants to get involved. And Mason wants to help his teammates out if he can, as Wayne Douglas, meanwhile, looking around the outside of Joseph Wright, but so close to the wall there, just about avoids it. And well, here comes Wright looking essentially to let Douglas go in order to make sure that Douglas could go annoy Mason. So I think Joseph Wright realising right now the better plan is let the pro driver do the hard work for you. And we'll come through the fast chicane now in towards turns 10 11. Well, Joseph Wright's going to have to make some progress here because right now he's got Marcel Fritsch close behind him. And will Lewis Mason, meanwhile, hold his ground at least for now. But meanwhile, back to the front of the field. We are at the halfway point of this race come the end of this next lap. And Michael Lee's now only 3/10 ahead of Lee Horn. Horn has caught up to him, and rapidly so, as Andrew Pike and Jamie Dory are closing as well. So at least at this moment, trying to hold on, trying to add another prime win to his championship campaign after that win at Fuji in race number 1. But since he hasn't picked up a win after that, however, he could do it in this one. Meanwhile, Nick Clibbins is a bit further back, and the RAC Sports Power Crest Autosport driver here, he's definitely gone under the radar for most of the rounds so far this season. But I get the feeling right now he'll want to put himself on that radar by the end of the day if he can steal that place off of the lease. George Stone, the AM leader right now. We may have been inconvenienced earlier on, but meanwhile, I'll hold the phone on that because there's Craig Twardock. Looks up the inside, takes the place of Ben Beddyworth just like that. And Beddyworth saw it coming in and gave them the space. But now as they get ready to drag race their way up towards turn number 9, you'll see that Audi for Quatermass Motorsport just suddenly really come alive here, albeit has he got enough for a run to get to turn 9 just ahead of Twardock under braking? The answer is going to be not quite. He can't make it happen. Meanwhile, too wide here between Joe Doble and George Stone. And Doble there goes around the outside of Stone. Stone, to be fair, fighting it up to the point where he feels like it's not worth it and lets it go. So Joe Doble makes another place, now up into 6th. Joe Doble is absolutely flying right now, and well, it's been a long time since we've seen him finish on the podium, let alone take a win. Can he potentially take a win here today? He has got the time to do it, but he's got to make sure Stone doesn't get back ahead of him. George Stone here is going back for the move. They go too wide in, and on the exit, Stone takes the place back, and that forces Joe Doble back towards Twardock and Beddyworth and Sheraton. So suddenly, this pack of cars all gets together. It's still happening now in the foreground, as here is Joe Doble back up the inside. Stone right now, he doesn't want to let this group through. Now, should he really fight this? That's why the question's here. He wants the overall points for the team, and also for himself the overall championship. But there is Twardock up his inside. Now to the outside of the Type 2 racing driver, absolutely being bold, brazen, and making his elbows and shoulders wide as humanly possible. But going down towards turn number 7. That's only going to work for so long before Twardock gets back to the inside of the hairpin. Now Beddyworth's going to try and get the traction out the corner, but immediately has to pull out there. He's too quick on exit for Stone's car, and their free runs the risk of attacking him on the rear. But as they get ready now for the next sequence of corners, well, understandably, Stone has been passed by Twardock and Doble. Now, who exactly is going to pick on him next? As Stone goes defensive there versus Beddyworth, and in the end, Beddyworth has to back off entirely. Back to the fight between Mason, Wright, and Fritsch for what is second through to 4th in the AM class. You can see them all here together right now, all in a single camera shot, following along behind Wayne Douglas. They're all looking quite confident, but coming through down for 10, 11, and 12. I think tyre wear is going to be an accumulated factor for Lewis Mason in that Honda, in the fact he's carrying a lot more weight than normally. It may just be starting to take a bit of a pinch from them. We look back to Andy Aldhouse here as he battles with Jack Giles. They may be a lap down compared to the rest of the field, but to be fair, they're still enjoying themselves out there, and Aldhouse will take the place off of the 57 driver and moves into 12th in the AM class there through turn number 9. Back up the order we go, and right now this long line of cars refuses to separate as Isaac Doble tries to keep Wojciech Swirydowicz and Matthew Cheverton behind him. Well, to be fair to Isaac Doble, if he isn't going to be able to make that much progress, what he's going to do instead is make sure those behind him can't make progress here. And right now Swirydowicz hoping he can find a way in, but I think they all are at this point, and Isaac Doble really being the cork in the proverbial bottle. Can anybody pull it out? If nobody can, well, the places aren't going to flow, and at this point 10th place might be the furthest that they could all push and poke for at this moment. And Wojciech Swirydowicz right now will be the one who really wants to try and knock at the door here and find a way in. Now, what exactly has happened to Luciano Witvoet in this race? That is the big question that we need an answer to, and the answer is going to be it was a toe to the pit, but how exactly did that happen in the first place? Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a quick look back in time and find out, because here is a replay. So this is where it went wrong for Luciano Witvoet at the start of the race. This was too wide with Swirydowicz through turns 9 and 10. Made contact with Swirydowicz and then got turned across the front. In fact, was that McKinsey he made contact with? Yes, that was McKinsey. My apologies there. The two cars similarly liveried, but it's the gold gleam on what is the front bumper that tells you the car of McKinsey and the Veloster. And what was a Witvoet, they'd be turned on around. As quick as that, it all went backwards. And when the damage picked up, he had to come into the pit lane there. And that explains the full story. So back to your live racing we go. Now, we come back in good time because there has been some drama since we've left that behind. And the big drama has been that Joseph Wright, in fact, has lost out in the battle for second in the AM class. Has dropped back to 4th here, and he now has a whole pack of cars scrambling after him. Speaking of which, Alan McCain versus Andy Fox here. They come through, turns 4 into 5. And, well, Fox right now in a poor run through 5 as he comes in towards 6 at this point. So McCain's still there. Wright really struggling, but I think he's burning a slowdown penalty. That's why he's struggling. And in fact, Joseph Wright's got damage on the car. He has got a meatball flag, and, well, Fox isn't aware of it right now, but he will be aware of it soon if he gets a look at that car. Goes deep on the corner. The two NXTGEN teammates start to block each other, but I don't think that's by design now. I think Wright's really struggling to keep the car going, and Fox at this point has got to be realising what's going on here as they make make the way on around. So it's been a big moment. In fact, we've got several cars with big damage on them, including none other than Sean Dobie and Benjamin Gregory as well. What on earth has exactly happened? Well, we're going to find out shortly as we do take a quick look back in time. And here is a replay, ladies and gentlemen. This was Benjamin Gregory making his way down the start for the straight. Wayne Douglas battling with him in towards turn 1. And in the end, Douglas and was Gregory coming together. Gregory turned around into the barrier, rolled back across the road. My goodness, and in the end, Joseph Wright went straight on there, missed his braking zone and into the path of what's the way with Benjamin Gregory. And the two had a coming together. Well, completely unexpected coming together, but then so. And that explains what happened to both of them there. So I think Wayne Douglas and Benjamin Gregory will go to the stewards room afterwards to understand who exactly did wrong. And unfortunately, Joseph Wright got it wrong under braking and just happened to find a car there that he was going to make contact with. You couldn't make that up. Back to live racing we go. And Owen Stitchby right now, well, all over the back of Isaac Doble, fights over 13th place here, but more for him, holding on to 6th place of the Prime class, with Bennell Tree and Sam Exton still behind. They're all still trying to find their way past him. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, here's your leader, Michael Lees. He's still refusing to budge, as Lee Horn rides on the back of him here. And with 4 more laps to go when they come on around, well, understandably, Horn now thinking to himself, okay, I've waited patiently, but now I've got to try and make the move happen here because Pike and Dory are there. And well, understandably, all 3 of those pro drives, they have not taken a win in a long time. They all want it, but Michael Lees wants the overall win as well here, not just the prime win, but he's got Nick Clibbage, you can see in the rear of the picture, the 5th car in this order to worry about as well. So he kind of wants those pro drives to act as his buffer, and Nick Clemens at this point, well, if you were the number 13 driver, what you've got to be thinking to yourself right now in the 013 is, simply put, stay with the pro guys in front, because when they fight Lees, they will bring them to you, unless Lees puts on the mother of all defensive drives here. But we do know, of course, that he's carrying a lot of weight to the car, whereas Horn does not have any weight to the car. Pike has very little, and the same for Jamie Dory. So that might be to the advantage here of Clemens, and the fact he can really wait for this race to come to him as they go a little bit deeper into it. But we'll see what's to be as they all roll the way off the corners. Now, meanwhile, behind we still do have Joe Doble 5 seconds back, and thinking to himself how he could potentially get involved, as he does have Craig Twarlock a little bit further behind him. And then we do have Ben Bennyworth and Wojciech Swirydowicz. Now, Swirydowicz has managed to make his way into the top 10. He has cleared Isaac Doble, and we didn't quite see how that happened, but he was able to make that progress in the end, and we might be able to see it very shortly as to how he made that move, but it's happened all the same. And meanwhile, behind Logan McKinsey and Isaac Doble, well, they've changed places, but meanwhile, McKinsey trying to find his way past George Stone, and Stone in carries a lot of momentum in, goes deep as a result in towards turn number 10. This could be it for McKinsey. He might move into 10th place here and bring Isaac Doble with him, as your AM leader, meanwhile, still fights these places, no doubt about it. He's doing everything he can to hold on to them, and well, the answer is going to be, in the end, that he won't be able to hold on to this one, surely, as it is going to be McKinsey past him. And now here comes Isaac Doble up the inside of him, and here comes Matthew Cheverton as well. Cheverton says, let's make it a menage a trois, and we're on the way in towards that braking zone. He comes on through, and there's Owen Stitchby, who wants to try and get away from Bedell Trier, but Stone says, no, that's your lot. And here comes Trier, look up the inside, but Stitchley puts the car in the middle of the road and says to Ben behind him, no, that's not going to work. But as they roll the way through, goes a bit deep there, through turn number 4 into 5, they get very close and very firm, and Stitchby in the end has to leave the door open there. Now back to the inside of 5 he goes. Oh, he comes in a bit hard, so that's going to make contact between the two of them. That sends Trier sideways, and in the end he couldn't quite stop there with all the field behind. So therefore, not quite sure where he was pushed into that one or where he made a mistake of his own volition, but either way, sideways car in front. That's Marcel Fritsch cleared it sideways and collected there by Sam Exton to put him straight. He'll be grateful to Mr. Exton after that one, I think. And will they make the way onto the next stretch? Well, right now, well, Bedell Trier drops all the way to the back of this group, but he's still in touching distance of a fight for 5th place in the Prime class, but he's going to get a move on if the car hasn't been too heavily damaged. But you can see that Exton and Fritsch still looking to exchange places here, and in the end, it will be, well, with Marcel Fritsch getting clear, as Bedell Trier now is going to try and take the place off him, but does so, and will all the places have been swapped around now. So External Trier have cleared Marcel Fritsch, and they move back onwards towards what will be the penultimate lap. Speaking of being back to the front of the field, well, Michael Lee still hold off Horde, Pike and Dory. They're all queued up still behind this man. Nobody right now is able to find a way on in. Meanwhile, Wojciech Swirydowicz taking another place off Ben Bennyworth there. Bennyworth struggling coming out of the chicane. I think he's made a mistake there because he was very slow off the corner to the point of practically losing out. But hold up, we've had Alan McCain come together. That's Matthew Jordan with him. Oh, careful, gentlemen, because that's Mark Hughes trying to come through there. And Hughes right now wants to try and pierce his way past the two Prime drivers. Well, he's going to look for a move up the inside inside. Here he goes all in. And Will Hughes rolling through. He gets on the inside of Jordan immediately. And Alan McCain with damage to the car here. Well, for Mark Hughes right now, all he's got to do is keep this together, and he will be on course for a full place in the AM class. Marcel Fritsch being the best part of 4 seconds up the road. I think that's a bit too much to ask for here, unless Fritsch makes a mistake. But Hughes has got to be worried about the fact that Adrian Fritsch is not too far behind. You can see him in the rear of the picture there in WS Racing Esports Audi. But from them, back to the front we go, and Michael Lees makes his way onto one last lap here today at the Portland International Raceway. Can he hold on to make it an overall win and a return to winning ways of the Pro-Am class? Or will Lee Horn, Andrew Pike and Jamie Dory find a way to intercept his aspirations? Well, here we go, in towards the chicane for the final time, and Horn right now doesn't seem to have an answer under braking, but does he have something on corner X? He has a much better run, but Lees in the end just simply says to him, what are you going to do? I've got the inside line. And Horn looks one way, then the other. Lee Horn is going to try and go in. Lees covers him off, so therefore that's going to be looking around the outside here. But is it all part of a feint? Is it part of a switchback attempt? Not quite. Lees the end just keeps rolling the car right in the middle of the road, and therefore Horn, Pike and Dory all staying with him as they get ready now to go in towards the turn 7 hairpin. Now, is this where we see a lunge potentially? Well, if we're going to see it, Lees is going to cover it off, and therefore Horn now has to go for the switchback instead. But Lees constantly dragging the car into the middle of the road. He's driving fairly, and he's making sure Horn cannot find a way in whatsoever. So now making the way onto the back stretch here. This is where the Hondas behind will struggle versus the Veloster, but the Audi of Dory might be able to play a role here. They try to make his way into the top 3. Can he find a way in? As he pushes Pike along, that's going to make it Pike and Horn side by side here in towards the S10 sequence. And Will Horn just simply needs to defend here, but that defense is going to cost him time. And as they get ready to make the way for the final long right-hander, well, I think right now Lee Horn's got problems to worry about behind. And for Michael Lees, it's a run out the final corner. And well, for the 55, he's going to take overall victory and prime victory with it. Lees wins in race number 3 ahead of Lee Horn, followed by Jamie Dory and Andrew Pike in a photo finish between those two. And then it will be Nick Clemens in 5th, just ahead of Joe Doble, with Craig Tardock taking home at 7th place in the end, just ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz. Ben Billyworth and Isaac Doble complete your top 10. Matthew Shelton comes home in 11th, and for George Stone, it is the win of the 3rd time of trying here at Portland today. He takes the race 3 win in the AM class ahead of Wayne Douglas, Owen Stitchby and Sam Exton, with Lewis Mason in the end runner-up here in the AM class. Couldn't quite make it 3 for 3, but came so tantalisingly close. It'll be Ben Trier and Marcel Fritsch who makes it another AM podium, with Andy Fox and Alan McCain completes that top 20. We've still got more drivers to come on through, including Roy Plummer there, who makes an 8th place in AM or 31st overall. And we've also got Joe Coffin just behind him in the Team Big Lips Racing number 136. He comes on through for what will be 32nd, and then it will be Joseph Wright in 33rd before we do get to Sean Doby, and he will be your last finisher on this race. Oh, he's gone to the grass there. That's not good at turn at number 10. He's going to take a long trip on round now to get back to us, but in the end he'll get there eventually. Well, for Sean Doby, hopefully the cars are all in good nick, but as he makes his way all the way along at the moment, well, the A-Tip Racing driver will see the finish line this race, albeit he's going to come into the pit lane. That will set him back a lap, but he won't lose this finishing position effectively, ladies and gentlemen, as all the drivers now cool on down. Michael Lees comes on in, and he will be surrounded by winners' applause there. What an end to his day here, taking a prime win and with it an overall win. It's been a little while since we've been able to say that about an overall win for Michael Lees, but sometimes he does make the magic happen, and indeed he was one of the early ones to take an overall win in the Pro-Am class many a season ago, and he does it once again. But as they all cooling down, also great performance there by none other than Lee Horn to take what was the Pro win. Unfortunately for him, it's not worth any extra points. The Pros, of course, scored only based on overall finishing positions in the overall championship, but as everyone calls him down, George Stone as well. Pleased as punch for that, no doubt about it, and we're pleased for him as we too take a look back to those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see them on screen right now, round number 3 was a little bit of a mix-up. Race number 1, full of excitement. Race number 2 turned the tempo up to maximum, and in race number 3, we saw things just dial down a notch as everybody focused on consolidating their positions. And the one who did so the best, Michael Lees, your overall and prime winner there for JW Motorsports by 4 attempts at line over Lee Horn, who in the end for Next Gen Orange put on the pressure to Lees, but was also under pressure from Jamie Dory and Andrew Pike and settled for second. Next Gen Pink driver there, returning to the overall podium in the number 13, just there the Sim Racing Collective Esports is Andrew Pike, who enjoyed a brilliant set of battles today, and then Nick Clemens round off the top 5 there with second place for the Pro-Am class. The iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport driver returning to his best and his best result of the season with that. Joe Doble took 6th for Double Sim Racing, really coming through in the final race today, showing his prowess in that Honda that he didn't get to show in races 1 and 2. Head of Craig Troddock, who rounded off the Pro-Am podium there in 7th. The Sim Racing Collective esports driver picking up a huge haul of points in this race. And then we did see behind the 200 the number 80 of Wojciech Swirydowicz, who was able to make his way through to an 8th place finish. Not quite able to make it 3 wins in a row. However, the Project 26 Valvatore Challenge driver will be very happy to know that in this race, things definitely did seem to come out all right. At least for him, but not necessarily for his teammates, because they're not inside the top 20. Ben Bennyworth took 9th in the end for Quatermass Motorsport, fending off the charge of Isaac Doble, with the Doble Sim Racing driver in the end having a huge queue of cars behind him that gradually broke up over the distance, starting with Matthew Sheraton was best the rest in the length. My name is Tech Racing Drive. It was then at George Stone, your AM winner in this one, spoiling what could have been 3 from 3 for Lewis Mason. But in the end of 93 try, they'll be happy to arrest the rot of the first 2 races, with Wayne Douglas in 13th place for NXTGEN Pink, just ahead of Owen Stitchbury. Stitchbury will definitely be one to watch for the rest of the season, because he's definitely shown his debut today. He has got prime leading pace, albeit in the races it hasn't quite worked out the way he's wanted to for RA Motorsports, but it can't be denied he has been very impressive on his debut. Well done to him. Sam Exton ran off the top 15 there for Team Big Lips, just ahead of Lewis Mason, your run-up in the AM class, and the Full Tilt Motorsport drive just ahead of his teammate of Bedell Trier. Marcel Fritsch completed the AM podium there in 18th for WS Racing Esports, ahead of Andy Fox and Alan McCain, and outside up top 20, 21st, it was Mark Hughes for GBRC, who took 4th place in the AM class in this one. Not quite the podium, but definitely making up for a difficult race 1 and a solid race number 2. Matthew Jordan took 22nd, just ahead of Adrian Fritsch for WS Racing Esports, and then we did have Reese Watt and Logan McKinsey complete your top 25. And how about that for the American driver? A race 3 that didn't go quite right at all, and 9, it can't be a perfect day for everybody in the Project 26 for ATC office. Adam Wilson-Weir took 26th, just ahead of Nigel Stock, and it was Joshua Down and Carl Thompson and Fraser Rostance who completed that top 30, with Rostance in the end coming on through in the final race of the day to pick up some solid points ahead of his NXTGEN Blue teammate of Roy Plummer. And Joe Coffin, meanwhile, took 32nd after a challenging end to his day, but ahead of Joseph Wright there, who lost out on what could have been a podium. We're all going backwards after that contact at turn 1 with Benjamin Gregory. Sean Dobie and Michael Clough were not too far behind, albeit Clough was a lap down as classified. And then Andy Aldhouse, 36th there, just ahead of Scott Malcolm, with Jack Giles having a bit of a challenging debut today, but we look forward to plenty more in round number 4 next time out. And it was also a lap down for Benjamin Gregory. It was a premature retirement. What was the best part there of 9 laps in the end for Gavin Gardner? And we also did see a very early retirement for Phil McDougall, as we did for Luciano Witvoet with the instant on the opening lap, and also Philip Harris. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the results from our final race of the day. But don't fret, because whilst our racing has stopped, this broadcast isn't stopping anytime soon. We're keeping the engine going, and we'll be back at approximately what will be 5 minutes time or so for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, because you won't want to miss what our drivers have got to say about the brilliant racing we've seen today at the Portland International Raceway. We will see you again very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And what we're going to do is kick things off with a bang, as always, by catching up with one of our drivers who's right in the thick of it today. It was none other than Matthew Sheraton, who joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Matthew, and well, what a day of racing you have had. You've been in the thick of it in all three races and back-to-back prime wins. Couldn't quite make it a prime win in race number 3, but you tried your hardest. You must still be happy with how it's gone at Portland.
Yeah, I think Portland might be one of my favourite tracks now after that. Which is, yeah, after I bought the track yesterday, I think I've had a total 35 laps of track knowledge, and I think only 15 in the touring car before tonight. So, and with a time, at least when doing testing yesterday, a bit lackluster. So, yeah, I don't know how I've done that, but I will not complain, and I will take that with a smile on my face.
Oh, indeed. Well, you can sound happy, if not a little bit surprised as well, like you say, with your experience with Portland. I do have to ask, what do you think makes this circuit so enjoyable for you? So, 'cause you just seem so dialed in here.
It's I don't know. It's just one of those fast flowing. It's like I'd call it a proper driver's track, really. You're so on it 24/7. You know, there's never really a bit of downtime. Like not even on that back straight bit. 'Cause you know, you've got to hug the wall to keep the time up, and then by the time it straightens out, you got to set yourself up for that fast sort of left right at the final of the chicane. And yeah, I just sometimes, for me, when it comes to tracks, some I just get the hang of and then start flying, and then others, yeah, maybe not so much. Yeah, but this one in particular, yeah, I've absolutely loved it. Fully great track, and whoever put this on the calendar, I owe you one.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's talk a little bit about your qualifying performance. In qualifying, I do believe 16th overall, 6th in class, so it took a bit of time to get going. What do you think held you back in qualifying?
Again, just sort of the lack of the track knowledge, I think, and understanding where to actually, how to distract the car properly. But then, like I say, and also I had an instant straight away. I just lost it under braking and then slid, which to be fair, I think's happened quite a bit tonight. It is a very difficult track under braking. But other than that, I came back out, set a few banker laps, sort of got going, and then I'll be honest, where I just slotted in on the tracks, I just got behind a couple of pros, so I just sort of followed them, watched them, saw what they were doing, pretty much tried to copy them as best as I could, and yeah, the lap time started dropping, and yeah, we got about 16th overall. Not too sure where in class, but somehow I think one of my better qualifying sessions in this series.
Well, indeed, definitely it has been an upward trend in qualifying so far. And then we went into race number 1, and well, it was a bit of pandemonium throughout the front of the field, but somehow throughout all of it, you found yourself winning the first prime race of the day.
Yeah, that was I think that was a shock, especially where I started. I could tell there were quite a few pro-ams in front of me, so I mean, I think mentality for this season, you know, I'm here to have a bit of fun, have a drive. You know, I've got my one and done titles wise, so I'm here to just fully take it all in. And I don't know, this sort of not care mentality, but sort of I'm just going to drive mentality has actually bought, I'd say, a much cleaner racing version of myself and much better results. And yeah, we just sort of, you know, sized everything up, every corner, every overtaking opportunity, and then we just ended up gaining our way through the field. Obviously, we gained fortune through the two that were pulling away, just having instants and hitting the wall in the end. But you know, that's racing. You sometimes got to let the race come to you, and it did. And then, like I say, hit the front, and then just had to pour a titanic defense to keep it. And luckily, we did. So yeah, my first win of the season, and yeah, first win of the day.
Oh, 100%. And following up your first win of the season in race number 2, you brought home another prime win, but with the caveat of an incredible battle between yourself and Bedell, where in the end there was bodywork traded, there was even wind mirrors, I think, chopped off the cars. Just take us through that.
Yeah, I was on the max weight, so I didn't think I could actually keep hold of them, but as for, yeah, but you know, I'll give it a damn good go. And I just got the launch on both of them. Obviously, the way turns 1 and 2 work, both the inside and the outside. The inside of 1, the outside of 2 actually is the optimal line if you're side by side, because you can then just get the run out of the corner and then have the inside into 3, 4, and 5. So I was on the optimal side, got ahead of all of them. Obviously, Ben dropped it, took me with him, which is fair dinkum, and then. Oh my god, the other guy got ahead. I forgot his name. I do apologise. I bow. Yeah, he got ahead. So then me and Ben were just scrapping, and then he let me go again, which is fair play to him. And then yeah, we both tried to hunt down the other guy. I got ahead of him, and then he followed me in. And yeah, he was clearly that reduced weight was helping him a lot through the corners. And then yeah, the last couple of laps, he managed to get right up behind my bumper, sent it down the inside of the hairpin, gave him the space. We had a drag race to the line. Obviously, we hit the fast left, right at the back, and he went off a little bit and lost another position. But yeah, otherwise, it was a titanic fight, one of the best I've had. And it took everything from me. So yeah, hats off to Ben for that one. That was good fun.
Oh, 100%. Great battling between you two, and the other guy you're referring to there being none other than Ion Stitchbury, our debutant, who really got stuck in as well. But coming on to the final race of the day, race number 3, of course, a top 19 inverted grid. It meant that you would start in the end, what would be a bit further down the order than your previous races. How did you find it? Because obviously all the weight in the car once again, and this time it looked so the fighting was a lot stiffer.
Well, luckily I didn't have the weight because I'd saved the option till the end, actually. So I managed to drop all of the extra weight from winning the last race. So there was a bit of positive. But yeah, like I say, we had the reverse grid. It was quite a high number. So I just a quick check of who's up ahead. And there was quite a few pro-ams. So it was like, okay, maybe not a podium or a win here, but top 5, that would be nice. Yeah, we get going, and obviously having less weight, the car's quicker, especially with the lower temps. So I was trying to side through everyone, was biding my time, so there was a bit of chaos up in front of me, especially with all the super quick pros starting behind, trying to get through as quickly as possible. Yeah, so it was just sort of keeping out the chaos, and then I got up to the back. I think it was Bennyworth. I was like, all right, let's sort of, have another go, run it back after last season. Unfortunately, the pros got me and had their huge battle around me and in front of me. So I sort of got stuck watching them. Sort of got stuck having front row seats to watching their fights. So he kind of got away. So it's like, all right, I'm just gonna keep out of their way, and then just cross the line, get some good points, and then just go on to the next one with head held high.
Well, to be fair, and I appreciate you breaking it down for us all, you can hold your head high after what's been 2 class wins and a 5th in class, a huge haul of points, and it means it sets you up very nicely, though, when we go into our next round of the season, and in 2 weeks' time, when we go to a classic hunting ground for many, we go to the Monza Grand Prix circuit, minus its first chicane. What can we expect from you there?
Oh, God. Keeping alive. Well, I think first and foremost priority will be keeping alive for that race. It's got a track record in the NXTCC for having a few spectacular incidents, to say the least. So yeah, priority 1 I think will just be keeping out of them, which will probably bring quite a few positions. Yeah, but Monza, just a lot of straights really, which might be a good thing because I think I might have the fastest car on a straight. Apparently the Velocity's overtaken the Audi now in terms of straight line speed, so possibly a positive. Either way, just keep out the crashes and probably good things will come.
Oh, fair play. Well, we'll look forward to seeing whether you can do that in our next round of race in 2 weeks' time. But as always, just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to?
Yes, obviously, shout out to the team and affiliate sponsors, including our new one on the car, Shooting Brake Auctions. Thank you for their support, and also thank you to anyone watching the stream supporting me. It does mean a lot to have a little bit of an audience. yeah, and obviously thank you to yourself, Paul, and the NXTGEN admins for putting on a great show tonight.
Oh, no worries at all, Matthew. And a huge thank you to you for joining me in the interview room. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear from you, and I could hear how tired you are from all the fighting. Go get some rest, good sir. You've earned it 2 prime wins and a 5th place, a big haul of points. We'll see you at Monza in 2 weeks' time, and hopefully we'll see you leading the way there like you have today.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
So here and there from a tired but an absolutely proud Matthew Shelton. No doubt about it, ladies and gentlemen. He's worked hard today. And, well, talking about the fact that the Portland circuit, he does definitely now have a love for it, even if he didn't have that much time to practice for it and only learned it the best part of 24 hours ago. But he found in qualifying in the end, he had to latch onto a series of pro drives to find some of the time that was missing. He found it in the end, but the problem was everyone else found a bit of pace. So it was more about race number 1 really having to work his way forward. A bit of lady luck, did see in the end what was some of the leading prime drives drop down, and he was able to seize upon it and in the end bring on home his first prime win of the season. But race number 2, goodness me, what a race it was. A three-way fight in the end between Matthew Sheraton, Ben Altria, and also Owen Stitchbury, and in the end Sheraton was able to hold them both off to bring home his 2nd win of the day and of the season as well. And then in the final race of the day, well, weight in the car that was taken away because of the option set up, but in the end, of course, the one thing he definitely did have to keep in mind was the fact it was never going to be easy, and in the end, he found himself surrounded by pros in front, and he opted to play it safe rather than instead go all in and try to throw away what could have been some guaranteed points. So a smart head on Matthew Sheraton, and talking out there as well the fact that since taking his pro championship in season 9, really a bit of a different approach, and I think the words he's really looking for there, he's a lot more relaxed now. I think in previous seasons, he's put a lot of stress on himself trying to become a champion. And now that he's done it, it really is more of the, okay, I've broken what is the bubble on that one. I can just enjoy the race a little bit more. And that is the Matthew Sheraton we've seen here today. We love it. And hopefully we'll see more of that Matthew Sheraton next time out at Monza. But ladies and gentlemen, more interviews to come. We're going to be speaking to another member of the Prime class very shortly. But who will it be? You're about to find out. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our second interview of the day, joining me now in the interview room is a man who, when he's not busy trying to set up cars, he's very busy trying to set up success in cars. It's Andy Fox. Good evening to you, Andy. What a challenging day for yourself. But in the end, you seem to end it on a high, much like you started on a relative high in your first and final race.
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Been a long time. Yeah, it was another mixed bag for me tonight. Really, I qualified okay. But I think the thing was it was that tight in the mid-pack. I could have probably had another couple of tenths and jumped probably 10 or so positions, but I didn't. So we ended up where we were in race 1. I made a few errors myself coming out the last corner and gave a few other people a bit of a few easy positions. But then race 2 ended with a bit of a nightmare in the first corner, as you probably saw on the broadcast. So came out P37 in race 3 and just thought, you know what, let's just see what we can do as always. And yeah, managed to make up, I think it was 18 spots or something like that in the end, and finished P19, so more than happy with that one.
Oh, 100%. You deserve to be happy with that. And I know we talked briefly in the build-up to today, and you were saying about the fact that you hadn't had too much time to practice at this circuit, but one of the key takeaways we've noticed from Portland today is the fact that it's really kept everyone close, like you mentioned, with regards to qualifying, but in the race as well, it's been a circuit where to make moves, you've almost got to just drive over the edge a little bit. You have to sort of lunge on your rivals, but not too much through risk of going off or onto the grass. How did you find it for making progress in races?
Yeah, I think that again it comes from the nature of the track and the fact that everybody was so close on times. It was, as I say, like you said there, you have to make that little bit extra of a push and the occasional nudge to get through past people. To be fair, from my point of view, I tended to leave that to the others and just capitalise on the mistakes that everybody else made, because I had a few cars go off in front of me. I think second to last lap I had 3 cars go off battle into the first chicane, and all 3 of them went off, and I managed to drive through the middle of them and gain 3 more positions. So I think it was one of those, it was you either push it a little bit and sometimes end up going over the edge and have an accident, or as I say, tonight I just sort of held back and let everybody else have the fun and pick up from the mistakes of other people, really.
All fair play. And speaking of that ideology for making progress in race number 1, we didn't see you make too much progress in the end. Started 21st, finished 20th, but you gained 1 place. I take it perhaps race number 1 was more just settling down and see where you fitted into the order, whereas race 2, perhaps the plan was, okay, I can now go forward. Obviously it didn't, and it went quite backwards in race 2.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, race 1, I think I got up to about P15, P16, and then the last 2 or 3 laps I ran really wide coming through the final chicane onto the last corner, and I even clipped the wall on one of them, so I ended up just going backwards a few places, which put me back in towards P20. So yeah, that's what happened with the first race. I was making decent progress again, picking up from other people's mistakes, but then, as I say, made a few myself just to give other people a chance to do the same back to me.
Well, we saw, of course, what was that progress for yourself in race 1 and falling back a little bit, but then race number 2, it all went very backwards. We won't dwell on that any longer. Let's talk a little bit about race 3 then. Of course, well outside the potential reverse grid, but it looks like in race number 3, with a lot less pressure on yourself, perhaps, you just were in your element in that one and picking up places one by one.
Yeah, it was nice to just steadily work my way through things. As I say, there was a few accidents that gave me a few freebies, but I seem to have reasonable pace. In race 2, I know it didn't go well, but I know me and Sam Smith came out the pits pretty much together, and we were running 18.3s, 18.4 lap times, which would have put us up with the leaders. So I suddenly found some pace, given that I hadn't raced the track till yesterday. But yeah, it was a nice one to just go through and just steadily pick off people one by one.
Well, you managed to pick him off in the end and make sure it was another top 10 in the Prime class. So some reasonable points coming your way. And now, naturally, the next question is going to be, can we expect a even more consistent day from yourself when we head to Monza in 2 weeks' time?
Monza. Yeah, that's always fun. We'll see where we go with that one again, as always. Quali is obviously going to be really important to try and not get too far back and get caught up in anything that may or may not happen at T1, obviously, with Monza being as it is. But yeah, I'm normally pretty decent around there. But again, we'll see how we go. Try not to overdrive the car in quali, which has been my downfall this season so far. And hopefully try and get 3 consistent results rather than 2 decent ones and 1 nightmare.
Oh, indeed. And we hope that you can avoid the nightmares and have what is the happy races all the way through, Andy. But just before I do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a big thanks to you for putting the broadcast on. I always spend most of the rest of the night watching it back, and it's really good to watch and see what everybody else has been up to. And then obviously all the boys at Saltpeck, the team that I'm currently with. It makes a change me being racing on a night rather than them sending me data to build setups for them all. So yeah, it's good fun to actually get out and do some racing again, and I'm enjoying being back with it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, glad to hear you back out there racing, Andy. It's great to see you on the grid racing here in the NXTCC as well. It's been a pleasure, as always, to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on what has been a good haul of points for yourself today, despite the changes of race 2. We'll see you on the grid at Monza in 2 weeks' time, hoping for even more points to come your way. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
No worries. Cheers. Have a good one.
It's always good fun to speak to Andy Fox, and he's always able to be positive about things no matter what, and I can really feel that positivity shining through from him. And talking out there, the fact the closeness of qualifying in terms of pace between tries, and also the nature of the circuit, particularly with the setup of many of these corners, whereby if you go from into one corner, you've then got to think about what is the counter-attack or the reversal direction into the next corner, really making this Portland circuit go so well. And the next-gen orange driver did seem quite keyed in qualifying. Whilst he only qualified 21st, to be fair, in such a tight field, what we got to see was the fact that 21st really representative of being right in the midst of the pack. And he also did see what was race number 2 when he came out the pit lane with the repaired car. Well, the fact he was on the leader's pace essentially towards the end of race number 2, albeit a long way down. So he had the pace there, and unfortunately, perhaps he didn't quite get to show it. Albeit in race number 1, he gave us a glimpse of what was possible, and he did make that progress up into the top 15, only then to be relegated down by a few late mistakes running wide, and another another big theme as well. Everyone who ran wide at a corner today lost not just one, but several places in the medley. And, well, that was the demise of Andy Fox in race 1. Race number 2, it was a write-off to a degree, given what happened right towards the start. But race number 3, from 37th to 19th, one of the biggest gains of everybody over the distance. Indeed, 18 places gained. Nobody else was able to match him ahead of him, but behind him, Mark Hughes also was able to do similar. Well, it was a situation whereby for Andy Fox, it was 2 top 10 finishes and a 16th in the Pro-Am class, some good points, and now he's got his head down and thinking to Monza and what could be there. But without further ado, ladies and gents, we've got one more interview to come, but who exactly is it going to be with? We just have to wait a little bit longer because we're about to find out. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our final interview of the night, joining me now in the interview room is none other than Lewis Mason, our AM driver today, who almost made it 3 AM wins on the bounce, but it was 2 and a second in the end. Lewis, welcome to you. You must be happy. Even if it wasn't perfection, it's still a big score.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have asked for much more apart from maybe getting 3 for 3. Way better. Fuji and Silverstone have gone, and really happy to have made some good gains on the others in AM.
Oh, indeed. Some huge gains on your rivals in the AM class. But in terms of unpacking it all, 20th in qualifying overall, 2nd in the class. You looked quick out there, just missing out on pole by a little bit of a margin in the end. What seemed to click for you? Because you did look naturally fast out of the box.
I don't know. I mean, it's the same every season. I find 1 or 2 tracks that I really have good pace at. It's just a shame. I was leading. I was in P1 in class whole qualifying session. A couple of minutes before the end, Marcel pips me. I'm on for a lap that would have put me, I think it was in the top 15, up towards the top 10, and get slightly held up on that lap, which I had to abort it.
Oh, well, it was a bit unfortunate that you couldn't quite make the magic happen right towards the end of qualifying, but it just goes to show you can never assume you're going to take pole until the very end of the qualifying session. But still, for yourself, started 2nd in 20th and then quickly started to make your way forward in race number 1. And I do believe, essentially, in what was the midpoint of the race, already into the lead just ahead of your rival there. I mean, just take us through that process of chasing him down.
Yeah, so on lap 1 into the hairpin 90-degree right-hander one where it opens up on the entrance, I made contact with him and half spun him and got ahead. Felt a bit bad for that, so I let him back through once he'd caught back up. And then I think it was a lap or 2 later, just going into the braking zone of turn 3, I think he outbroke himself slightly, maybe touched the grass slightly, and he just slightly kicked out the rear and allowed me through whilst he was on the grass. And after that, it was purely just trying to stay ahead of him for as long as possible.
Well, in the end, great on you to give the place back and then take it fairly. And in the end, he couldn't quite chase you down no matter what he tried to do. And it looked so that you were just able to stay ahead of Marcel just a little bit. Albeit, with regards to this Portland circuit, one of the questions we do have to ask yourself is, was it like trying to find the racing line? Because we saw if you stayed on the racing line, you were absolutely fine. As soon as you went wider, even a corner by an inch or 2, it's almost as if the car was just pulled off the road.
Yeah, a lot of the corners, if you step off the racing line ever so slightly, you're just on the grass. And then as soon as you're on the grass, it's just never ends. Like, you cannot, unless you come to a complete stop and just 90-degree lock it, get it way back on the track and in front of everyone, then you've just got no chance of saving it. So you've got to really try and pick your moves properly. Like, you can't just, a lot of tracks you can send outrageous moves and make it, but on a track like this, if you go slightly wide, then you're screwed, and you go from trying to make 1 move to getting done by 3 or 4.
Well, in the end, not quite making those mistakes in race number 1 to take away your AM win. And in race number 2, we saw that from you again. A lights to flag leading of the way, albeit it looked so with the weight in the car, the pace definitely was impacted a little bit.
Yeah, the car felt a lot better out of some corners with the weight. Like out of the final corner, I felt like I could get the power down a lot more. I was gaining a lot on my best laps at the final corner. But then other corners, it was just awful. I mean, when you're trying to shift the weight under braking, and it's just wanting to do other things and repping out, it's not ideal at all.
Well, it may not have been ideal, but for yourself, nobody quite was able to touch you again in race number 2, so another win. And in race number 3, you missed out on the reverse grid pole by 2 places, but you were still well within it, starting 3rd on the grid. But unlike your rival in front of you in the end of the race, what was none other than George Stone, it looked like it was a bit of a rough start for you.
Yeah, it was. It went all right at first. I lost one position to Lee off the start. Lee got a really good start. Stayed in P4 for a few laps, and then I made one slight mistake, went a bit wide, got done by about 4 or 5 people. I think I fell down to about P8, and then I found my rhythm again, got back into it again, and then it was just one slight mistake into turn 1. I didn't notice the board as I was coming up to the braking zone, broke one board too late, so instead of breaking the 400, I broke at the 300, and by that point you're just going straight on, so I just had to kind of go with it and lose the slowdown as quickly as possible.
Well, in the end, with that and having to burn that slowdown, the slowdown's so painful as we saw you drop down the order one by one by one. Still, you didn't give up, you kept pushing, and in the end you were able to push back into second place in the AM class, even if you did, to be fair, have Joseph Wright and also Marcel Fritsch hot on your heels towards the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, once I'd served that slowdown, Joseph was right there, and all I could think about was how I was throwing it away, and it was all falling away from me. So my main objective was staying ahead of him. I started pulling away a bit, which I was happy about. I knew I had the pace to pull away. So it was just about trying to get back into the rhythm. It's easier said than done, but trying to get back into the rhythm and put in the laps that I know I can do, stay with it.
And in the end, well, by taking that approach, we definitely saw you hold on and bring on home what would be a second place. So not quite perfect, but very close to it. A 16th place and a second place in the end. I mean, it's a huge haul of points. And given that you came into this round in the AM Championship in none other than what was, I do believe, down in 6th place, well, this is surely going to give you a nice big score now to move you up into the top 3, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, top 3 would be great. But even that, it's just purely at this point, start the season still. It's all about trying to make gains, climb my way back up the leaderboard, see where I am after the halfway point. That's all you can really do up until then.
Well, that's absolutely fair. I mean, we've got a long way to go, and I can imagine that as time goes on, we'll see you ebb and flow with your rivals. But, Lewis, just before we do let you go, 2 questions firstly. Number 1, of course, Monza is next. The infamous Monza Grand Prix circuit without the first chicane. How are you feeling for it?
I mean, I like Monza. It's a running theme that with next-gen races around Monza, it doesn't quite go to plan. I mean, I think the last 2 times that I've done a next-gen race around Monza, both have been red flagged. That was in I think it was in the Legends and in the touring cars. It might have been MX-5s instead of Legends. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't mind Monza. It's just obviously, I don't think we seem to really gel there as a collective.
All fair play. Well, hopefully things will gel next time out. And as always, I do have to ask you, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
Obviously, everyone in my team, Ben Altria, Ben Gregory, Will Guthrie, they were really helpful on a race day, help keep me in check, keep me focused on the task at hand. Jamie gave me a lot of help coming into this race with practicing. Yeah, me and him did a lot of work getting my pace up there, so thanks to him for helping me out with that. And yeah, that's about it really. Everyone that's on the car.
All fair play, Lewis. Well, a big thank you to yourself for joining me for an interview this season. It's been great to see you up there gunning for gold in the AM class and making it 2 wins in 3 races and podiums in all of them. We look forward to even more from yourself at Monza in Italy in 2 weeks' time. But until then, congratulations on your victories and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Paul. Have a good evening.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Lewis Mason for Full Tilt with Motorsport, and what he's absolutely happy with today, and talking out there of the fact that really it was all naturally coming together, and whilst it didn't quite work out in qualifying to the way he wanted it to, as he was leading the qualifying session for the most part in the AM class, until he did see what was Marcel Fritsch take it away, and on his final lap, Mason went for it, but unfortunately, what was a little bit of an impediment and a mistake cost him the opportunity to take that pole position back. We knew he had to do it in the race, but very quickly made his way forward in race number 1, fairly in the end after that initial contact between the 2 drivers, but made sure to give the place back and then do it properly in lap number 2, and he never looked back. Race number 2, well, he held on to position from where he started, and he never looked back in that one either. In the end, nobody was able to quite catch up to him, even the weight in the car that helped him in some corners and also made it harder at other points on the circuit. And that's race number 3. Well, talking out there, the early slowdown really cost him a lot of momentum, as we have seen in the replay footage here as well, but he never gave up, he kept his heads down, and made sure in the end that whilst he was under pressure from Joe Wright and also was Marcel Fritsch towards the middle to the end of the race, he was never going to let them get in the way of him securing that second place and indeed bringing home a huge haul of points. So it's a return to the top 5 at least going to Monza, but he's only looking ahead to the midway point of the season before he starts to think about the championship standings. So for Lewis Mason, it's always looking at the bigger picture rather than looking at the results here and now. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this evening. And what a triplet of interviews we've had. It's been absolutely brilliant to speak to all of our drivers. And, well, how about we give you a recap of who we've exactly spoken to? Because we're about to, ladies and gentlemen, and in fact, I do believe here we go. And as we can see, we need to say, firstly, a big thank you to Matthew Cheverton, our number 1 driver in the 001 for Aztec Racing, who we had the pleasure of chatting to and enjoying himself out there, no doubt about it. We also had a chance to speak to Andy Fox for Next Gen Orange, the Pro-Am class driver there. May not have brought home 2 wins in class, unlike Matthew Cheverton, his Pro-Am peer, but he was still enjoying himself out there every step of the way. And we also need to say a big thank you to Lewis Mason for Full Tilt Motorsport with 2 wins in the AM class today. He really was the AM driver who brought home the most points of them all, and every step of the way enjoying himself and looking to even further himself even more. Well done to all 3 of them on their performances, and a big thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room, and we look forward to seeing what they can do in round number 4 in 2 weeks' time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can be on the grid at Next Gen Racing, alternatively how you can join the NXTCC, or just if you want to know more about Next Gen Racing as a whole, well, we've got 2 major sources for you to go to. The first one, of course, is our official website, which is on screen now. And indeed, you won't find a better place to go to for all information Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. And as we continue in our extensive history of hosting sim racing series and leagues, there's never been a better time to join our community. But if you don't want to go to our website, which is all the information on it you need, and also links to the Beaten Hearts community, which is the Discord, which we definitely recommend you join to stay up to date with all the latest goings-ons at Next Gen Racing. Well, if you're perhaps a bit more of a social media person, then we definitely recommend you join our official Facebook group. And that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, where there you can stay up to date with all the latest news and get to know the guys and girls behind the scenes that make up the Next Gen Racing staff and admin teams. With a good number of them, not just being sim racers, but also real life racing drivers, if not stewards and also racing marshals. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, who do include Powermaxed, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and last but not least, of course, our title sponsor for this series, and that is Doble Motorcycles. And if you are looking to buy your next 2-wheeled machine or ATV, then why not consider Doble Motorcycles, the leading Honda motorcycle dealer in the United Kingdom. And given the Doble family does pride itself on customer service and has a rich racing history through 3 generations and is currently embodied in Mikey Doble, well, it's no wonder, ladies and gentlemen, if you do go to shop with Doble Motorcycles, you're going to be in pole position to receive excellent customer service from lights out to checker flag. And if you'd like to know more about them, do go to their website at doble.co.uk today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude today and we look ahead to next time. And in 2 weeks' time, on Tuesday the 24th of February 2026, it's the one word that everybody will be in fear of. Monza is around the bend. And in round number 4, we head to its Grand Prix circuit minus the first chicane. We visited it now, what has been 3 times so far in the past in the NXTCC, and it has led to some of the most ultimate high-speed racing action. But there's also been a few red flags. But will Monza bring out the red flags next time out? Or will we see some new stars at the front of the field? Or will we see the regulars taken to the top? Well, that's and more we'll find out then. But until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning into the NXTCC Season 10. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.